10 days until Rugby League goes to Las Vegas. We will look at part one of our season preview. Going to do it the same way we did it last year. We're going to look at all the non-Sydney teams. So we're splitting it up into two. So we'll be doing Queensland teams, Warriors, Raiders, Knights, Storm, etc. Looking at their ins and outs, given our bold projections for the season. Like, Penrith might be good. And a little bit of accountability, looking at how we went last year. I don't think anyone had the Warriors and Knights going as well as they did. NFL, baby, as a swift pandemonium sweeps the nation. We'll look back at her boyfriend, Travis Kelce, winning the I had to think of his name for a second. Winning the Super Bowl. That's right. Taylor's boyfriend. Winning the Super Bowl, and Patty Mahomes and Andy Reid. 3 from the last 4. Chiefs dynasty is a real thing. One of the better Super Bowls in history, going right down to the final drive. Can never rule out Patty Mahomes in overtime, that is for sure. NBA All-Star Weekend has just happened. They had a cool light-up court, but is it becoming a bit of a farce? The defense certainly is. Cricket, Tim David goes bang last night. One of the better T20 games you'll see. Plus, Kane Williamson continues his 100 streak. And we've got a baby King Coley. That's why he was having time away to welcome in little baby. Look at the soccer, EPL, Mbappe closing in on a Real Madrid deal. And in the final round... Sad times for Aussie fight fans. Alexander Volkanovski is champion of the featherweight division. No more, but kudos to Ilya Topuria. Got him clean with that right, and we've got a new featherweight champ. Little look at UFC 300 and F1 not far away. This is On The Esky, an Aussie sports podcast. We like our Aussie sport. We like our US sport. We have timestamps. You can skip to the sports that you like and check us out on the socials. We like to shout a beer, a non-alcoholic or low alcohol beer here on a Thursday night to reward excellent endeavours in the sporting field this week. Shauno, you're all decked out there with your three kits.
Different teams. They're coming from the NRL.
Classic.
Trying to look a bit like a multi, so we'll see how we go.
Who are you shouting a beer this week?
Oh, well, I'm getting my... I guess huge load of motorsport out very quickly in the start of this one.
Huge load.
Yes. So we start with Bathurst 12 Hours on Sunday. The Porsche 912 won that. Matt Campbell was one of the main drivers for them to win that. It was also pretty impressive. They got 50,000 people to show up to that.
That's very impressive.
Yeah, it was going to be more that's going to be watching NRL in Vegas, but that was pretty good. And then William Byron won the Daytona 500. There was a huge crash at the end of that. They wiped out most of the field, but he won that. NASCAR Full Speed on Netflix has actually been a pretty great look at last year's playoff series. Gets to know the kind of the drivers. And for this race, for the Daytona, The Rock himself did the intro, did the fire up your engines. And then to follow on with that, Drive to Survive for your F1 fans starts tomorrow.
Is that NASCAR Full Speed sort of shot in the same ilk as Drive to Survive? Yeah,
it's really good. I've quite enjoyed. It's only 5 episodes. It goes essentially has the run into the playoffs, and then the following 4 episodes are each round of the playoff series.
Very good. Cool.
So it's actually pretty cool, and it goes in depth with all the main characters essentially in it.
Does Ricky Bobby feature?
not in this one.
No shake and bake, maybe.
There's a few other
documentary, wasn't it?
Yeah, there's a few other names that are very, very similar to that kind of ilk of guys down there. It's Carolina being kind of sort of their home in the NASCAR. So, yeah.
Check it out on Netflix, NASCAR Full Speed. I will shout a beer this week to Scott Boland, the hero of the MCG. He's actually become the leading wicket taker in Victorian Shield history, going to 300 and something. I did have it up. I'm just going to bring it back up.
Yeah, he took 3 the other day, and I think he got to the 330 something.
It's pretty impressive stuff, given some of the names that he's gone past. Albeit, the Shield records sometimes they're one of those ones that you kind of don't want to have.
Because
you haven't played heaps of Test cricket. For example, Shane Warne is not in the top 5 for Victorian. wicket takers. But he's gone to 320 at an average under 25, goes past the great Paul Rifle. So into number one. Other names in the top 5, Alan Connolly, Tony Doddermead and Merv Hughes. So in some pretty good company there, and he's got the best average of the lot. So comparing to the great Mervyn Hughes, he averaged 30.6 with the ball in Shields. So Scobo, a good 5 runs underneath that. So becoming the most decorated Victorian bowler in Shield history. So enjoy a beer courtesy of the Esky Scott Bolam.
Yeah.
Monks, who you got?
Yep. So this week I've got Hideki Matsuyama. He won the Genesis Invitational over the weekend, which made him the most winningest Japanese and I think Asian golf player with a total of 9 PGA Tours to his name now. So by all accounts had a great final round. He was 6 strokes behind.
He came from nowhere on Sunday.
Yeah, came from absolutely nowhere. Broke the 4th round record with a 62. And I think that was the second lowest round score at the Arena ever as well. So hats off to a massive weekend. And congratulations on becoming a 9-time PGA Tour winner.
How old is Hideki? Is he 30 yet?
31.
31. So right in that peak window for golf at the moment.
Yeah, that's it.
You'd expect him to grab another major after winning the Masters a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Before we get him up, did you see the scenes at the Waste Management Open?
Crazy, dude.
They just stopped selling beer on the first day.
Did they stop people from entering as well?
And every year at sunrise, you see everyone lining up there, and it's a mad dash to try and get in. And it seems like one of the bucket list golfing events, the old Waste Management. There in Phoenix. What about last year? Because the Super Bowl was in Phoenix, so it was on the same weekend. And you could have gone to the. If you had, it would be nice. Be nice if you had the coin. Waste Management one day into the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's going to be one of the weirdest names for a championships, the Waste Management.
They may as well call it, the Mafia Open.
Wasn't going down that route, but sure.
Allegedly. I don't know. That's what the Sopranos. Tiger as well, just on the golf chat, has brought out Sunday Red. So not sure why he went for 2 names there on Sunday. Obviously. Famously wore red on Sundays, but he's broken it up as Sunday. Body looks absolutely cooked, doesn't it? But getting out there and still trying to play a bit of golf.
Was it Genesis where he pulled out? He played, I think, the first 2 rounds, and then he was ill. And then he said, not continue.
Yeah, I don't know if there is an official reason for him pulling out. Most might be able to find that one.
Bit of conspiracy that he's only going around to, of course, sell the brand a little bit, because I think it's co-done with TaylorMade from memory.
Backed by TaylorMade.
Yeah. So having him, of course, in that gear on the golf course will sell units.
Oh yeah.
But it's a bit of a challenge. I did see his young fellows trying to compete at the moment, I think, to get on the tour, but to essentially to take his next step on the way to becoming a professional. Good old Charlie.
He is like 12, isn't he? He's got a way to go.
He's a little bit older than that.
Let's have a look. Charlie Wood, son of Tiger. 15. He's trying to compete in a pre-qualifier. 15. Yeah, he's a little bit older. There you go. Young Charlie. I'm sure he's going to be pretty handy.
Oh, he looks like a clone of his dad. So
he's swinging. You ever seen the swings put next to each other?
Yeah,
pretty much the same. Do we find any reason there? If he's made comment on it,
just
influenza. Yeah. Hopefully, Tiger's coming back to his best health and continues to try to get round a golf course.
Was this his first one?
I believe so.
Well?
Ages,
yeah.
So even if he's struggling around, but it's good to see Tiger back on a golf course.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Pretty much the go to that sport.
Yep.
Very much so.
Mop.
Mm-hmm.
Mop of the week.
This is normally when we talk about a rugby league, but AFL's gone a little bit of rugby league.
Yeah, especially this week, leading into the off season, getting very close to the start of the season. They're all doing trial games at the moment, but the D's, I guess, were the big one. There's been a lot of talk about their team culture after it came out that Joel Smith, who was stood down and like October, November last year after the final because he tested positive for cocaine on
game day.
On game day, but they've come out only this week and announced that there's further charges coming with the. I guess there was the intent to traffic or to distribute were the charges. So he obviously had more of the white stuff on him than than just a typical personal use, which is not great for I guess his outlooks of ever playing again, but also on the team. And Max Gawn has been doing the round about interviews talking about the team's culture as the captain, talking a little bit about they do the hair tests. I can only comment on those results, which obviously must be pretty good. But having said that, the AFL has their 3-strike policy, and you won't hear about any of that until something serious happens. So who knows what it's like over there, the D's. But not a great look for them to kick off their start of their season, and I guess not related to that, but following on from that, they lose Brayshaw, who decides to retire.
Yeah, really thinking of Angus Brayshaw.
Concussions, hate to say it.
Horrible. Obviously, all the conjecture around the Maynard contact in the finals last year, and that was the last in a long string of head knocks for him, and he's called it a day on his career.
Medically retired, essentially. He's gone with the doctor's opinions over health over career.
So for two guys from your core playing group to be rubbed essentially now.
Follow that with Oliver as well, who's had his own struggles with mental health, and that team's had a bit of a rough off season
for sure, and it really makes you think as well about the amount that he must have had on there for them to push a trafficking charge. We don't want to get too blasé about the personal use kind of stuff, but it seems like every other week, there's something happening.
There were several guys that got pinged last year
in one of the codes, and
NRL gets it as well.
And there's certainly a distinction that needs to be made there between trafficking and personal use. True. Yeah. Having said that, the D's are in all kinds. A bit of conjecture around Goodwin and the the example he might be setting. It's going to be a tough start to the year for the boys in blue and red.
Yeah, they still have a very talented list and roster.
On paper,
they'll be competitive. But there's. I wonder if it's going to go like how Collingwood went last year with all the off-field stuff kind of steeled them together.
Yeah, and didn't bother them.
Brought the playing group together, and you know what happened in the end of that.
And that's what half of it, when we've got, there's culture problems at Melbourne and this and that, it's always just media beat up. Nearly always.
It's clickbaity.
Having said that, it's two guys from your senior playing group that go for very different reasons. There's, that's got to cause some sort of ripple, whether or not you buy into the headlines and the culture problems and yada yada. That's probably up to your own discretion. But certainly, two quality players that won't be there this year.
Yeah. And, you follow up with conspiracy theories on Smith. If he's looking to traffic, who's he most likely going to be supplying? Yeah. So it's closest to him.
Speculate
yourself. So speculate as much as you want. But, it'll be interesting. Interesting start to the season for the AFL. Of course, a lot of other news happening in that space at the moment. But
we might leave the rest of the AFL chat for next week. When we'll have a look at sort of some injuries and a few things, and then do the full preview the week after.
I worry for Hawthorn, man. They've got injuries out the wazoo.
One trial game, and then two serious injuries.
I think they already had 3 leading up to it. Their list is going to be decimated.
So we'll go over all that in the coming eps. But tonight it's all about the part 1 of our Rugby League season preview.
Give us a whistle.
Going alphabetical here from the non-Sydney teams, starting up with the team that went about
so close.
15 minutes away from winning the whole thing last year. They went a Nathan Cleary masterclass away from winning it all. It's the Brisbane Broncos. Finished second, won 18 games, lost 6, burst into the top 8 after finishing 9th the year before. Accountability, none of us had him finishing in the top 8 last year. We all had him around 10 to 12.
Yeah, we all underestimated how much Reece Walsh would do to that team.
How good that bloke is.
He really just freed them up, and then they played so good.
So their spine, Reece Walsh 1, Ezra Meehan 6, Adam Reynolds 7, most likely Billy Walters.
Yeah, he's in a bit of a competition.
Play at 9. Yeah, it's not guaranteed.
It's not guaranteed for him. Yeah, he's got to really perform in the trial games to keep that spot. But they've got some young fellas through that are really knocking down the door for that spot.
My concern with the Broncos, big outs. Kurt Capewell goes to the Warriors. Herbie Farnworth goes to the Dolphins. Thomas Flegler goes to the Dolphins. Keenan Palacia to the Titans as well. Can they overcome that with just the fact that these young talents like Reece Walsh, Payne Haas, Selwyn Cobbo are all 24 and under? Are they just going to get better that they can deal with these losses and have the cattle coming forward?
Yeah, exactly. I think they'll cover the forwards losses pretty well with Capewell and Flegler anyway, and their pack's already really, really good. And, sliding Cobbo in to cover for Farnworth, which I think will open him up a little bit. He gets the GI comparisons a little bit, but if he can be even a tenth of what GI was in the centres, he'll be an elite player. And then, they've got plenty of guys available on the wing. Like Corey Oates missed a lot of games last year, and he can just slide straight back in as a wing spot. So I think they'll be fine.
Their outside back depth is up there with the best in the comp. Definitely. And as good as Herbie Farnworth was last year, I don't think he's going to be a huge loss with Cobbo coming in. Cobbo could play anything 1 to 6, you'd think, and be pretty good. Obviously, probably preferred position at the wing, but like you say, GI comparisons, he's young, he's got a big frame. He'll probably learn how to play one defensive position in and be fine. Like you said, Corey Oates probably finds himself on the wing, but also they've got Dean Mariner, Jesse Arthurs probably locks down one wing. Their outside back depth is insane. I think Brendan Piakura as well played 15 games last year. He's a 21-year-old on the edge, probably just goes straight into Kurt Capewell's edge position.
I agree. I think the concern is he got a little banged up in their preseason game.
First trial.
Yeah, but he's nothing long term.
Yeah, I think he should be right for round 1. He may miss round 1. We'll keep an eye on that. It's nothing serious. He is an electric talent. Cook Islands international, only going to get better again, coming into 21, 22. As an edge back row, probably don't really find your peak until your mid-20s. So he's certainly one to watch there. Top end of the list, Payne Haas, arguably the best middle in rugby league, and if you don't have him number 1, he's certainly top 3. Paddy Carrigan, despite the little scuffle last week with Adam Reynolds, they seem like they've all made up. They were doing media together. And
team bonding.
That's right, a bit of bonding.
The second angle of that video is pretty funny as well, because essentially it stacks on and Payne Haas jumps on top and is essentially humping the boys on the bottom.
That's not who you want on the top of the stack.
No. So I wonder if Paddy took a bit of an exception to that, and that's why the blue happened. But I think it's all good. They've had to deal with that in front of the media. They'll be over in Vegas. I think all the teams flew out today from memory as they get prepared. I think South's there
the day before.
Yeah. So they're getting prepared for the start of the season. So I think they're looking all right.
Just looking at their squad here as well, the competition that you mentioned for that hooking position it's probably going to be Billy Walters, but Corey Pake, Tyson Smoothie, and they've also got a kid called Blake Moser who played under 19s Queensland last year. May not see him in round 1, but their options for 9 and the 14 are super deep. So any sort of concerns around losses and also aging players, so Reynolds old, Marty Tapau old.
They just re-signed Reynolds as well for a couple of years.
Yeah, so it doesn't have to be done this year.
Yeah.
That was my concern at the start of the contract, was it had to be done
and then
last year or this year.
Ezra got his big deal as well.
And he's a superstar.
Yeah,
Like we saw some of the most elite 5/8 play in the grand final.
He needs
in recent memory from him.
And he needs, I think, Adam Reynolds as well at this point in his career, because it really frees him up just to focus on being a menace, essentially, like getting the ball and doing whatever he needs to do.
Yeah, his ball playing ability as a 6 is up there with the best in the comp.
So
scored like 15 tries last year or something.
Yep. So I've got them finishing 1 after the first kind of round of trials. The teams are sandbagging a little bit. There's a few teams that are not playing a full strength squad. Brisbane played pretty close to full strength squad and put the Cowboys to the sword. They kind of showed their intentions of what they can do and how they can play, and they look really good. I've got them, hopefully taking the next step, being 1 and potentially winning the comp.
You get $4.30 at the moment if you want to back them for taking out the whole comp. I did hear, courtesy of Hammy on Bloke in a Bar from Sportsbet, that they've taken the most money on the Broncos this year. So a lot of people believing
young and talented.
In the Broncos.
Their window is very, very open.
I'm going to go very good, but I've gone 4th. I think Penrith are the best team on paper in the comp, and in Jerome Luai's last season at the club, I think they'll really be gunning for that 4 in a row and going down as the greatest team in the modern era. And then for me, it was tight. It's tight. On paper, I've got the Chooks and Storm just above them. Having said that, Brisbane tend to play a lot of games up in Brisbane, tend to win a lot of games up in Brisbane. Wouldn't be surprised if they're a top 2 finish.
What was interesting, we were just checking before, they had a better record away from Brisbane last year.
Yeah.
Which was crazy.
They were winning games away, and the usual impenetrable fortress of Suncorp became a little penetrable, but they won away. They beat Penrith round 1 last year. They've shown that they can beat them. Can they do it when it matters? I've gone 4th. Wouldn't be surprised if it's 3rd or 2nd.
Yeah, I think top 4. So.
Yeah,
you've gone top 2.
Yeah, top 2. I've kept them where they were last season. Put them in number 2 there. It's again hard to put them past the Panthers. But we'll talk about the Panthers next week.
For sure. All right, let's go into the Canberra Raiders. Finished 8th last year, finished 8th the year before.
Sneak in.
Funnily enough, none of us have them finishing 8th this year. Probably the biggest story of the off-season in terms of player movements was Jack Whiten going to join cousin Latrell up there in Redfern. And Jared Croker retiring probably wouldn't have been in their best 17 regardless, but that's a Canberra Raiders legend that leaves. Also lose Brad Schneider, Harley Smith-Shields and Matt Frawley. Big signing with Zach Hosking coming across from Penrith. Probably we'll be pushing for that starting edge back row. If not, he's certainly in their best 17. Are they able to fill these massive boots of Jack Whiten leaving, or are they going to have a bit of a slide? The predictions that we've got here would suggest that we all have them having a little bit of a down year.
And I think the flip side of that is also their roster. Those guys that have been very, very good for them for a long time are also getting old. You think of Papali, etc. They don't have a super young list. Jordan's pretty old. He's still floating around in there. I think Savage will still get the one, and hopefully he can capitalise on the amazing talent he has. And I guess the big question is going to be 6. It's going to be looks like Weeks is going to be the
he looked good in the trial.
Yes, he looks talented. So it'll be I guess the same conversation we just had with Brisbane. Can Fogarty take the reins and give him the main thing so that Weeks can just play his natural game and use his natural athleticism to be a complete menace. So that's the hope. But I just think they look like a side ready for a regression, then an ascension. It would take really, Ricky's got to wave his magic wand to be able to get them to improve. So that's why I've got them in that 12 spot.
Yeah, I've gone even lower. I've gone 14. I'm looking at lists and thinking the Raiders haven't improved on paper, whereas a lot of these other teams that finished outside of the top 8 last year have gotten a lot better on paper. You know, we'll get to the Dolphins in just a minute. Having said that, the Raiders seem to always find a way.
They always seem to stick in the 8. Like it's good managers to say they'll be the 8th team because they somehow always manage to sneak in there at 8.
And then can knock off a team in a elimination final like we saw with Melbourne a couple of years ago.
They're a well-coached team. There's no doubt about that.
Having a look at their best 17, it is an interesting mix of quite old and quite young. So you mentioned Papali, Rapana also aging a little bit, Elliot Whitehead getting a little bit long in the tooth, and then they've got this young talent in their forward pack with Tarpanay, with Hudson Young, with Corey Horsburgh, who are only going to get better, you'd imagine. We're talking about Payne Haas being probably unanimous best middle in the comp. Geez, Tarpanay's got to be up there as well. Gets through a ton of work, is tough as hell. And we saw last year Hudson Young and Corey Horsburgh both getting Origin starts for their respective states. So nothing wrong with that pack by any means. You do look at the spine and you think, oh gosh, like on paper, it doesn't really stand up to a Penrith or a Brisbane or a Melbourne.
It's unproven.
It's going to be interesting who actually has number one on their back. So as we saw Seb Chris play a lot of one last year.
Yeah, because Savage got injured this time last year.
He broke his jaw, missed the first two and a half months.
Couldn't break into the squad. So
there's talks that Rapana might play week one. And then they've got this young kid, Chevy Stewart, who's only 18 years of age, but they've already signed him till 2026 with an option to go to 2027. He's a Kurnell Stingray, so Sharks junior, has been killing it through the preseason by all accounts. He's still fresh as. So I don't think we see him week one, but if there's any sort of injuries, there's a chance that we see him either playing out on the Sting or possibly with the one on his back even this season. So certainly one to watch if it's not this year, 2025 or 2026 for young Chevy.
The Raiders are kind of that team that you think by about round 10 they might have settled on their lineup. There'll be, I think, a lot of trying to work things out, not chopping and changing, but essentially moving guys around, trying to find the best 13 on the pitch at any point in time.
I was going to ask, are they sort of in like a rebuild phase at the moment, working out the squad? Or
I wouldn't say rebuild.
It's like retool.
Yeah.
So they're just
not full rebuild. Just
I think they'll probably see the season, see where they're at, and then there'll be the question of maybe we have a bit of turnover and. Depending on that result, if they finish like 14, like Pets is thinking, then that's the look at. All right, we've got to make wholesale changes. They finished like 8th again. It's like we're still close. What do we mean? Well, one or two things. Maybe we can push again. So
I think with the cattle that they've got, they'd be happy with playing finals football. I think that's overachieving this year. Happy to be proven wrong. A few Raiders fans probably at us in the comments. We are based out of Canberra. But just looking at the list, I don't see them going top 8 this season personally.
Interesting, you've got Corey Harawira-Naira there, medically retired. I think he's actually been cleared this week.
Yeah, so there's a bit of conjecture around what his official status is.
Because he's got a defib.
Implant, so he's got a defib put in there. NRL physio, interesting video today, I think. It shows one of the EPL guys that had one put in. It's a huge bit of hardware. So a little bit different, I suppose, for a soccer player to have it that's not having constant contact on that
versus someone that plays in the second row.
Exactly right. Having said that, it seems like it's reasonably promising for CHN. Obviously, had those horrific seizures last year. Some pretty distressing scenes in that game. There was certainly a lot of talk that he wouldn't be playing any footy ever again, and now possibly with this internal defib, it's not putting a line through him just yet.
Exactly.
Any news there on CHN?
Anything extra?
No, not just yet. I think they're still in a balance.
Yeah, because I think it was mixed reports. So some people would say, some reports were saying he was cleared to play, and then the Canberra Times article from today, I feel like said he's not cleared yet, but it's a possibility.
Yeah, right. It's it's not completely ruled out like it had.
Yeah.
Which is good. Which is
awesome for him, and modern medicine doing its thing. Obviously, it's something that you'd want to treat with caution, and hopefully, he's, doesn't feel like he's having any pressure to return. But having said that, it'd be amazing if he does play footy again, and obviously we're all hoping to see that.
Yep.
From a Raiders squad management, Zach Hosking comes in. They're already stacked with their edge back rows: Hudson Young, Elliot Whitehead.
They love a back row in Canberra.
So he probably doesn't need to feel that pressure to rush and get back. Needs to come back when he's right and ready. You think KO Week's going to play 6? Is that your assessment?
I think they'll start with that and then see how they go.
Yeah, that's also what I think. Look pretty good on the weekend. Ethan Strange as well, one to point out. Sister Jasmine kills it in the NRLW for the Knights. Talented family. Maybe landing himself a starting centre role. Will be interesting to see on Tuesday when the teams come out.
Yep.
Be Tuesday week.
Yes, Tuesday week.
Monks, you had him 10th, so you've gone the...
I think we switched him around to 13th.
You went down.
So split between you two guys.
That's right.
He's got him 13.
So 12, 13, 14, all have him missing the 8. Get at us, Canberra people, if you disagree.
They're not quite bottom tier, but they're last tier.
They're better on paper than our Dragons.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't see him making the top 8 personally.
They're kind of just outside tier 3 and sort of in tier 4.
All right, the team from the Dolphins started off unreal last year and then a bit of a horror run with injuries and ended up finishing 14th.
Surprise depth is what killed them.
Yeah.
For a brand new team.
And we definitely spoke about how on paper the depth might have been an issue. You were pretty much bang on. You went 13 last season. Monks, you went 15, and I had him as a spoon. I thought didn't matter that it's they're being coached by the GOAT. I didn't think they had the cattle. I thought their spine was lackluster on paper compared to the other clubs. And geez, I had egg on my face the first 2 months, and then if not for injuries,
Sean get hurt.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
On paper, they're looking good this year. They bring in Farnworth and Flegler, as aforementioned. Jake Avarillo comes in. Oren Keeley maybe pushing for an edge position. He comes over from the Knights. And no really big outs. SASA going to Hull, and Oliver Gildart goes to Hull Kingston. No huge losses from a name perspective. It's going to be interesting to see how they line up. I think... there was some talk that Farnworth's got to play fullback. I don't think that's going to happen.
It's got to be the Hammer. Hammer was playing one in the trial game.
Yeah, so it'll be Hammer 1, Katoa.
After the season he had last year.
Katoa 6, Sullivan, O'Sullivan 7, and Jeremy Marshall King 9, with Farnworth probably just going straight into the centres there.
Yep.
Forward pack is old but good. We saw... Felice Kafusi taking souls last year. They're only going to get better with
few suspensions because of it.
That is true. I think they went a little hard in the book in a few of them, but regardless, he can certainly dish out the whopper. And then you've got the Bromwich boys, and that pack only gets boosted by Thomas Flegler coming into it. Who wears 14 might be interesting. Is it going to be Milf? Is it going to be Cody Nikarima? Or will one of them start at 6 and the young Isaiah Katoa plays out of 14? I feel like Katoa will be the starting 5'8", and they'll go either Milf or Nikarima as their utility. Depth is looking better as well. So that was that big issue that we had, or they had last year, was replacing guys when they went down. There's a good chance that either Mark Nichols or Jared Wallace or Ewan Aitken doesn't make this starting 17. So we're looking at sort of fringe Origin players at their best there. Not saying any of them are playing Origin this year, but guys that are handy that may miss out. Josh Kerr as well. He's pretty handy. Ray Stone, Val Tefare, who is trimmed down a lot, and we saw how deadly he could be last year. So there's guys there that aren't possibly in their, or they're certainly not in their starting 13, maybe not even in their best 17 that are handy footy players. Lemieux, who came on leaps and bounds last year. So I think depth is certainly improved on where it was, in their inaugural season. None of us have got them making the 8. We've all got them hanging around about 12, 13.
Yep.
What's the next step that they've got to take? Is it the development of Katoa? Is it Sean O'Sullivan becoming an elite 7?
Yeah,
what do you think it is?
I think one, health, and so they can build that combination. Because I think if they can stay healthy, that 13 turns into 8. Just kind of what we saw last year. I think they can be definitely a competitive football team, and the team's out there as a complete unit. And we think they're may have similar issues to what they had last season, and that's kind of why I've got them at 13. But I would not be surprised if they're finishing the 8th spot.
Yeah, I think that's it. Like looking at the ladder, trying to predict the ladder, anything from like 6 down to 13, 14 is pretty hard picking at the moment. You could have one team play really good, have an injury and fall off the bandwagon, or you have one team that just comes out of nowhere, surprise absolutely everyone in the league. So, yeah.
It's so interesting, isn't it? Because the top 4 and bottom 4-ish pick on themselves-ish. There's always going to be one exception. You watch someone that will go real unders and someone will go real overs.
Middle 9 is just whoever.
It's kind of roll the dice on it, isn't it? I'd have them around about the same spot as the Raiders. Like at their best, could sneak into the 8. At their worst, be bottom 2.
Yeah.
But they have point scorers like Hammer and Asako. Like they score.
How good were they last year?
Yeah,
Jermaine Asako, like a few years ago, was
he top point scorer?
Top point scorer last year. He had 20.
Kiss goals,
get us some Asako stats from last year. I think he had 20 tries.
20 tries, yeah. That sounds about right. Yeah. Hammer did about the same. And then they
last
had
year as well.
Fernworth. Hammer played Origin. Yeah. I think if they can get Katoa and O'Sullivan there as a unit for a long period, because Katoa, I think, was probably the only one that was stable in that position. And then he had, he had some games where I think they sat him down to, because he hadn't been performing, but he had Nicky, he had Kota Rima, Milford, and Sean O'Sullivan kind of bouncing in and out of that 7 spot. And they even switched as well. He played a bit of 7 too because they had there's other guys. So, yeah, I think there was just in their spine there was just too much movement. And they're kind of one of those teams that if they settle and they can perform, I think they'll be fine.
24 tries for Asako last year.
Yeah. They can got some points in them.
Bloody oath.
Yeah.
How many did Hammer get?
He got 20.
20.
Well. Yeah.
And 244 points for Asako.
Yeah.
Incredible. So their outside backs are pretty electric. Going to be interesting to see how they go. I don't see them really getting worse, to be honest, with Farnworth and Flegler coming in.
Yeah, they shouldn't. In theory, they shouldn't.
Is it enough to get them that next step and play finals football? Not quite sure. Gold Coast Titans. They're $51 to win the whole comp this year. They finished much like the Raiders, 13th last year and 13th in 2022. Ins, they get Kenan Palacia from Broncos. Harley Smith-Shields goes up from the Raiders. Outs, a pretty extensive list, but no huge names. Booth, Lemming, McIntyre, McKaylee, Toby Sexton, probably the biggest of the names, going down to the Dogs. How do we see the season playing out for the Titans? Their pack is pretty electric on paper. I am a little bit worried about the ageing Kieran Foran and Tanner Boyd as their halves combo. And 1 through 5, certainly not shabby, but not top end.
Yeah, well, they've said that AJ is going to play in the centres, and then that means Campbell will be the one. So it gets them a bit of X factor back there and see what AJ can do as a centre. I don't know. Their back line essentially doesn't scare anyone. Their pack will give them a nice, good platform to work off. But they were one of those teams that just couldn't score points and faded in almost every game last year. So they could be anything, but back end. I think, what did I say? They were 14 or something.
Yeah, we've all gone quite low on them. I've gone bottom end as well. I did have them just above the Dragons. Maybe a little bit of personal bias. I've bumped them below the Dragons down to 16th. Amongst you've gone spoon. Again, maybe a little bit of personal investment there.
A little bit. I can't put Dragons down there. I don't necessarily think that's anything against the Titans. I just think there's just those teams that were below them last year have probably just taken a step up in terms of their roster movements.
They're just a team that feels like they. Not gonna. It's a bad thing to say, but they just feel like they don't compete. Like they, you stack them up their list against the other teams. You're just like, I don't see how you win. That's the problem.
I think much like the Raiders, I don't see how they've gotten better. Whereas so many of these other teams that were bottom 8, bottom 9 last year, on paper at least, has gotten better. The elephant in the room that we haven't addressed, Des Hasler coming in.
Coach, so
they've got finally some elite coaching pedigree. Will Desi be able to get the best out of Fafita and Big Tino and their young outside backs? Consistency from Dave Fafita is going to be a huge thing. I think there was patches last year when we saw him at his terrifying best. Just about unstoppable if he gets the ball, on your goal line.
Running at 5'8" or so.
Well, that's what you should do. Run the goal line and you can run over him and score.
Exactly.
That's definitely what you should do. I think some elite coaching from Desi might be able to, see him be a Dally M edge back row of the year and get the best out of Big Dave Fafita. But I just don't look at the list and look at the depth as well. Like they're only, we talk about injuries, and obviously it's applicable to any team, but a Penrith or a Brisbane is going to absorb a big injury. You saw how well they played when Cleary missed 6 weeks last year.
They just had people to be able to pick from to slot in, whereas times
that depth is not insane.
There is a Huss though on that list.
Brother, younger brother, I believe so. They're both their brother because Isaac Fasua Malawii, didn't say that right. I think he's also the younger brother of Tino.
If they can get some form like their older brothers, then they'll be a very dangerous fullback.
My word. Into the Storm?
Yep.
All right, Melbourne Storm, $9, finished 3rd last year and 5th the year before. It's interesting looking at all of our projections. This is the 3rd year that we've done this. The lowest anyone's ever had them is 6th, but the highest anyone's had them is 2. So no one's in this Penrith sort of dominating era. No one's projected them to finish as minor premiers. Much the same this year. We've all got them top 4. They haven't recruited heavily at all. Sean Bloor comes in from the Tigers. That was in some sort of swap deal that sees Justin Olam go. A few losses in terms of names. Tarek Sims goes over to Catalans along with Jaden Nikorima.
Killed Georgie Williams during the week.
Smoked the big old beak. Georgie Williams got wrecked by big Tarek. That's again. Talking about people that you want to not get hit by, a marauding Tarek Sims is certainly top of that list. And Tom Eisenhuth goes over to the Dragons. So did have more outs than ins.
But I guess the big in, not really technically an in, but they hopefully get, Pappy you can see out the whole year. He's been playing pretty well in the trials. That's
that try that he scored just before halftime in that trial. And you're like, oh gosh, he's back. He's back. So
he's a...
Crossing everything, crossing toes and hair and fingers and everything that Pappy plays a whole season without any injuries. Obviously, that horrific patella fracture a few years back, and then was rehabbing that most of last year. Comes back, plays a few games, leg gets rolled up on and fractured his fibula. There was concerns around that. Early on, it seemed like more run-of-the-mill kind of fibula fracture. Still a broken leg, so...
That shit sucks.
Exactly. We were talking about run-of-the-mill. When he first did it, there was a lot of concern around compound and associated complications there. But Pappy... if he's there, healthy, 1 through 9 in terms of the spine, probably the best in the comp.
You just look at it on paper and you're just like, holy shit.
Yeah. Pappy, Munster, Jerome Hughes, Harry Grant. Harry Grant's only going to get better and better. He's still quite young. Munster and Hughes obviously right in there.
Yeah, I feel like he had a down year last year as they tried to work as he tried to work out his role without the cheese and taking on more responsibility. I think now that he's had that season under his belt, I think he'll be better for it. Which is crazy to think that Harry Grant's going to get any better. And then Jerome Hughes is up there with one of the best halfbacks in the league. So
always underrated.
Yeah, and they've got the best player in the league potentially in Cam Munster when he's on. He's unbeatable.
And coached by Bellyache.
Yeah, exactly.
There was a little bit of concern last year around their forward pack and how they would hold up in the post-Bromwich Kafusi era. Didn't disappoint by any means. I think Nas stepped up big time last year. We saw Katoa, Kamikamitha get better last season. And you have to think Christian Welch missed most of last year too. So he comes back in. I think their pack's looking fine, really. Yeah. Josh King looked pretty good.
And if there's any club that's just going to find some bloke off the street and turn him into a superstar, it's Melbourne.
100%. We've seen that Jonah Pezzett, when he's come in, he's played pretty well. Tyron Wishart, they've got a little bit of half coverage if something was to happen. And if there's anyone on that list 18 through 30 that we're not super familiar with, trust Melbourne to turn him into an absolute prodigy.
Joe Chan, there we go.
You watch. So. Third, fourth.
Yeah, they'll be a top 4 team.
Yeah, so we've all got them just that tick below Penrith and Brisbane, and that's the big concern. Got absolutely hammered by both of them in finals last year. 26 zip to the Broncos, 38-4 to Penrith. There's a very clear top 2, I think. I've gone a little bit low on Brisbane, but I think if you look at the bookies and where the money's going, it's pretty obvious that it's the grand finalists and then a step below down to everyone. Is Melbourne the head of that pack? I suppose time will tell.
Melbourne are always going to be a good defensive, gritty team. I think that their biggest issue last year was scoring, those X factor kind of points. Where they're going to come from, and
what X factor's coming back?
With Pappy back, then maybe that he can address that issue for him, and that again maybe that really frees them up, kind of like Walsh did last year for Brisbane.
Yep.
Anything to add?
No, not really. Yeah, I think having Pappy back's just a huge in for them. If he can stay healthy, there's no reason why they can't even break into that top 2.
Yep, 100%. Newcastle Knights, $26 to win the whole thing. Surprised everyone last year by finishing 5th. Went on that crazy run at the end of the year when Kalen Ponga was playing electric.
Kalen Ponga as well.
Yeah, it came up from 14th in 2022. It's going to be hard to repeat. We've all got them hanging around the 8. I've got them just sneaking in. You guys have got them just missing out. Lots of ins and outs. In terms of name value, Dom Young going over to the Roosters, big out. And Kurt Mann, handy utility, going over to the Dogs. The Lachlan Miller, who started the year at fullback last year, and the KP at 6 experiment didn't work out. He actually looked really good in the start of last year, but he's going over to Leeds. In terms of ins, Jack Cogger comes back from the Panthers, and Kai Pearce-Paul is an interesting one. He's a young edge-back rower coming across from Wigan and likely to start as an edge-back rower. So no massive names recruiting, but look, if KP continues his run of form...
Yeah, that team's all KP. If Kalen Ponga's on, they finished 5th this last season, so I think that's probably where they potentially could top out.
Probably the roof.
Yeah, exactly. If he's good and they're playing electric football like they had been, they can push all the way up to, I think they're about there finishing 5th. They got a tough road ahead of them, but as long as Ponga's good, no concussions, and plays a full season, he and Walsh will be battling it out for that Queensland number 1 jersey.
That's going to be an interesting discussion there.
Who cares? Put them both in that one. Who cares? Put them both in the squad.
Who would you have play where?
Oh,
you have both in the starting lineup.
I think we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Walsh
one and Ponga
can play.
Maybe
He says, you can play. Ponga's big enough to play elsewhere.
Yeah, 14 perhaps.
Yeah, hammer on his outside. So.
I think their pack's not too bad. If Jaden Brayley stays healthy,
brothers,
getting the Saifidi boys around, Tyson Frizzell's still elite, Adam Elliott's good. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how good this Kyle Pearce-Paul KPP is going to be. Depth.
Bradford Best was good from last year. So.
Certainly, their backs are good, man. Greg Marzu was a freak coming over from the Titans.
They need a good platform, and then just let Ponga work his magic, and then they'll score points. Yeah.
It's going to be 6 and 7 for me. Cogger and Hastings. Hastings has been pretty good.
He had a good resurgence.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see Cogger coming back to Newcastle where he started his career, how they link up.
And he does have, of course, Gamble to be knocking down that door because he'd want that spot back.
Yeah, true that. It may not even be Cogger. It might be Gamble and Hastings that start. Phoenix Crossland as well was elite, played a lot of 9 last year and then finished up as a utility. They're not a bad team on paper. I've got them finishing 8th. You boys went 10 and 10.
Yeah, they'll definitely look better on paper. So they, that's probably unders from us, but time will tell.
There's just so many of those teams in that middle of the pack that
could be anything.
Yeah, that really, we'll get to the Warriors in a second, but when we're talking about the Sydney teams, Sharks, Parramatta, South, that cocould really be in that sort of 5 to 12 conversation.
Yep. 100%.
Warriors now, it's nice the way that it's worked out just alphabetically, but it's also the two teams that really were surprise packets last year.
Yeah.
Up the wires, pandemonium throughout New Zealand. But I think once everyone's teams started to get knocked out, unless you were a Broncos or a Panthers fan, I think just about everyone was on the up the wires bandwagon. Finished 4th, $23 to win the whole thing this year. Andrew Webster in his second year as coach, and get a bloke called Roger Tuivasa-Sheck returning, coming back from rugby. Mentioned Kirk Capewell from the Broncos. It's 2 guys that essentially will go straight into their starting 13.
Yep.
Outs, Josh Curran, pretty reasonable player, goes over to the Bulldogs. Bailey Sirenen, Viliami, a few guys outs, but not superstar talent there. So, again, if we're doing the on-paper thing, arguably could be better.
Yeah, definitely. And I think Chance is going to have Roger knocking down his door to take that one spot. He had like
Can you have a look at his health? Because there's some chat that Chance might be missing week 1.
Yeah, neck injury potentially.
It's not who you want to give a number 1 jersey to.
No, and because in the trial game he had 150 metres. Which was I think I saw a funny stat that was almost the total amount of metres he gained playing in rugby last season. So, which it might be complete bullshit, but I thought it was funny.
It's going to be interesting to see the workgood and how he adjusts.
He looked good. He looked good from what I saw in the trial, and he slot him straight in the 1. I really liked Metcalf last year. I think he's good young talent. And he's got surprisingly good pace with him. And Sean Johnson was Sean Johnson last year.
Maybe robbed of a Dally M.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe should have had a Dally M. I see you got Martin in there as a potential. I think he's more a 1 than he is a 6, but he's a guy that can give him plenty of depth in and around there. So
got Harris DeVita coming back as well. Had a sabbatical last year, so a big question mark around who will wear 6. I think it will be Metcalf.
Yeah.
But they've got options there, whether it's...
they've got some good depth.
Yeah. It's on paper, geez, their pack is...
Yeah, I think I've got them at 8.
Crazy.
And I feel like that's unders after all we've just discussed. So, I think they can... Maybe their weakness is a little bit at 9, but I think, they got... Well, I think... Yeah, I actually saw your point there. Is this make or break? Is it this season or bust, essentially, for the Warriors, considering Sean Johnson is 35, and add to that Flanua Blake is leaving at the end of the season. So, you've got potentially number 2 front rower leaving. You might as well try and get as much as you can out of him now. So
I think just clarifying on SJ, I think he turns 35 next year. Next year,
okay.
So it's... they're gonna.
There's not many years left.
Not many years left. Maybe next year's his last year. Maybe it's this year. And confirmed we'll lose AFB. So you're losing an elite middle.
They took a really big step forward.
Elite 7.
And they've added some definite talent in there, and hopefully they can push that and try to capitalise on that now because I feel like they have to. Because otherwise, again, you go back and they're like, well, who's going to be 7 going forward?
It's that old chestnut. Having said that, look, I've got him at 6, and I wanted to have him,
higher,
pushing that top 4, but I just couldn't quite do it. We'll get to South next week when we talk about Sydney teams. I had South just ahead, but look, if they get a roll on and with all the support,
Jimmy, do you have the table there? What was their home record?
They were pretty good last year. I reckon they lost
home
3 games at home, maybe.
Yep, they were 8-4.
That was 4.
Yep.
4 at home. So again, it's much like the Broncos. Their
away form was good.
Away record was really good.
Yep. That's it. On Chance, it looks like he might not be returning until round 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is a bummer for him.
Slot Roger in there and he'll lose his job.
Yeah.
Well, I think they've confirmed that they won't shift Roger.
Oh, who's going to play 1 then?
So Martin's going to play 1.
Tamara Martin?
Sure. Maybe.
Because that's the only other fullback I can see on that list.
Harris DeVita could wear 1. They haven't confirmed it.
They haven't confirmed anyone yet.
Yeah, interesting.
So
watch that space.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll have to wait and see.
Very good. Monks, where did you have them? You had them 7. So both of you guys got low end 8. I've got them 6, maybe.
Yeah,
maybe
it's
5.
hard to, it's like, they were so good last year. How could they go better? But they've got a couple of guys that hopefully can, push them over the edge.
Well, out of them and Newcastle, I could see them going better this year than the Knights.
Yeah, it looks like they might have Tane Tuapiki.
Tuapiki.
That he might be playing
Interesting.
fullback.
Interesting.
I have no idea what he's like. Time will tell.
Yep.
Cowboys, sort of the opposite of these teams. Really good in 2022. Missed out on the 8 last year. Had a reasonable run towards the end of last year. Were pushing for the 8, but just missed out.
Yep.
Finished 9th, 12 and 11. $15 to win the whole thing this year. Not huge ins or outs. Jake Clifford comes in. James Tarmow's retired. That's more some of the more household names there, but one of the teams with less player movement, and that was until yesterday when Luciano Leilua, it's been announced, will effective immediately be joining the Dragons.
He'd wanted out for quite a bit, so
had a pretty crazy asking price of about $900 a season. I think the Dragons, what are they? They had 2.3 over 3, so a tick under 800. So good money for Luciano Leilua, going back to the club where he played his junior footy. I think he was a Hurstville junior. So definitely knows the St George area. It's going to be interesting to see how he slots in at the Dragons. I don't think it's a massive loss for them because Helium Lukey is a very good edge back rower. Obviously, Jeremiah Nanai, he's going to have one of those
he had a very
edge positions.
average year last year.
Well,
so
I think he set the bar high for himself as a youngster.
True. Okay, down year compared to his previous year.
He's 20.
Yes.
I think...
I think he can only get better as well. So, they're a good squad full of potential Queensland guys. They've committed to Tom Deaton long term.
Who was good last few years.
Yeah, they're going to see what they can get out of Townsend, and then Clifford is, I guess, the potential replacement there for him. I think they're a good, solid squad. I just don't think they've really done much of anything, and they're kind of where they were last year. So that's why I've got them at 9 again.
We've all got them at 9. I've gone 10. Same thing. I just don't see on paper how they've gotten better. Having said that, they were pretty banged up last year. They performed unders.
Yeah.
This is certainly one of those teams that their ceiling could be 5 or 4.
Yep.
That's it.
Semi Valemai went over from the Raiders and looked all kinds of good. Might be interesting to see if he gets a wing spot or if he gets a centre spot. Val Holmes, Murray Talangi certainly will have one side set. Scotty Drink will definitely have the one on his back, barring injury. Their pack's pretty good on paper. Ruben Cotter, Reece Robson played Origin last year. Cohen Hess has played Origin. Nanai's played Origin.
They got one of the better 14 men as well. And Jake Granville. So,
Yeah. Depth is an interesting one. If some of these big names get hurt, don't have the depth of those elite teams. Outside, forward depth's not bad, really.
Yeah, McLean's in there.
Yeah, Jordan McLean, Gajewski. Some reasonable players there in terms of forward depth. I'm just thinking more from a spine depth perspective. Yeah.
What about? I mean, we kind of see it when Jason Tamalolo is out of the squad, largely due to injury. They sort of take a step back as well.
He had a very unders year last year, but there's also, I think they're potentially because he's no longer the captain. So was it Cotter? Who's their captain now?
Might be Cotter.
Yeah. Some of the comments then made by Todd Payton about long-term young guys kind of alluded to maybe they're looking to get out of Jason's contract in the not too distant future. Because I think
how much he got left?
Because he
signed that
10-year deal. Yeah. He might be year 7, maybe. But he's probably at the good point in that deal where he's kind of getting paid, sort of what he's worth, if not a little bit closer to it. But yeah.
Yeah.
So when did he sign it?
2017. Jeez, where does the time go? Yeah.
Well.
So 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. I think this is his eighth
year on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's getting there. Cotter and Deedon seem to be co-captains.
Yeah. Again, because they've committed to Tom Deedon. And so, they've gone and was like, hey, we're committed to the young guys. They're the future. Kind of makes questions about Big T, whether he's going to be there long term.
What do you think about the Queenslander spirit as well?
Mm-hmm.
So, it used to always be the Broncos were half the Queensland Origin team. You look at that 1 through 13, Holmes, Talangi, Dearden, Cotter, Danai, Hess, like these guys all played for the Maroons.
Yeah.
So they're going to be, best of best mates. Origin period again, that does have an effect through the Origin period and how they prefer.
Yeah, and that goes for all. It goes for all the Queensland teams. Like Brisbane, they've got the other half, and then if there are a few Dolphins and a few Titans in the mix to round out the squads.
I think the Cowboys have got more starting Maroons than the Broncos do.
Maroons,
Walsh, Cobbo.
Man wasn't, but I don't think he won't be. And Carrigan, and
that's it from 1 through 13.
Yep. Oates had played there. Sure. Well, if Oates is on the wing, then yeah.
So it's kind of the opposite of how it used to be, where the Maroons were the Broncos with a sprinkle of Cowboys and other clubs. Now it's like the Maroons are the Cowboys with a sprinkle from everywhere else. So again, that can have pros and cons to it. Mm-hmm. Cons through the Origin period, it's going to be hard to win games, but that's 3 games.
Yeah.
Pro is these guys are beating the Blues when they shouldn't be on paper. Worst team ever.
Don't be an Origin game.
Worst team ever comments. But they're going to be best of mates and have won Origin together. Yep. So that's got to play into things for sure.
Yeah, definitely. That only makes them better.
All right, that's the
preview.
That's the non-Sydney teams. We'll do Sydney teams next weekend, and then it's only 10 days away it's 10 days today till Vegas. So when we're doing Sydney teams, we'll be horny. I think.
It'll be very, very close to season start. Yeah, definitely.
I think it's going to be right on the either the cusp or right after the Vegas games. So looking forward to the season of rugby league. By all of our projections there, clip them, see how they go. We all reckon Brisbane top 4. You've got them minor premiers. We've got them just a touch behind. We've got not out of the Knights and the Warriors. Going to be hard to replicate. Maybe the Warriors do it. Maybe the Knights don't.
And Storm will always be there.
Storm always going to be good. Yep. Be shocked if they're not top 4. Yeah. Maybe a down year for the Raiders and the Titans. Cowboys could be anything.
Yep.
Dolphins as well in there. Be interesting to see how they go in their second year.
Up the fence.
All right. That'll do us for some rugby league.
Just quick notes. Points. Yeah, Stacey Jones is going to be the New Zealand coach, so he will get that job they've gone with a legend of New Zealand over Wayne Bennett as an example. Super Rugby League or Super League?
Super League.
Is their season's just kicked off as well, and they've actually had really good crowds. They've got a new deal with, I believe, ESPN, so their games are going to be televised into the States, and will actually be televised down here more regularly. And there's some chat about getting Super League games and NRLW games into the States too. As part of this growth of rugby league. The interesting thing for them is they've gone really, really hard on cracking down on high shots or hit contact to the head. They've had 4 red cards or send-offs in the first round, which is about the equivalent to send-offs in the NRL last season. So there's been some questions marks about will they, in the club challenge, what is the rules going to be like? Are they going to be that strict on it? And I believe today they said that it's going to be a little bit less strict. There'll be more of a typical kind of game. But yes, Super League's trying to grow, and it looks like they're growing well. And with the big Vegas push at the moment, Rugby League's trying to grow, and they did that. A bit of shots fired from Landis today or yesterday. They had the financials. They made 700 mil last year, something like 90 profit. Their viewership was all up. I think they beat out AFL for viewership at 93 to 91 mil. So
they made more money off TV.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure about money in total, but his comments are like, "Hey, we're the number 1 sport in Australia." So he sent that. And I was just like,
everyone watches NRL on TV. Everyone goes to the AFL.
Yeah. And my point of this was like, can I take the origin numbers out and can I compare them? See, like to like on the competitions?
Well,
because I'd say that's a large part of your viewership.
Why take origin numbers out?
True. Well, if I want a direct comparison between the two sports, like which is the NRL or the AFL, the biggest based on viewership and money, the AFL has no equivalent, of course, to an origin period, which is kind of like an all-star standalone competition. I think that makes up a big factor of their viewership numbers and generates them a fuckload of money. So that's why they do it.
And it's one of the pinnacles viewing spectacles in this country.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
We're going to get to the NBA All-Stars and how much of a joke it is these days, and the NFL playing flag football. Nothing. No sport has something like State of Origin.
Yeah, none at all.
It's in a league of its
own special beast, and of course that generates them a fuckload of money. So if I just not cooking the books, but if you want to make a like for like of competitions and competing in that, I think there's a slight caveat there that they have origin. But
if you want to go down that path, the AFL should just go, look at the attendance numbers, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
100%.
And they essentially dominate the bottom section of the country across to the west, whereas the NRL's got the rest of the East Coast up and then into the Pacific Islands. So
the Ron Barassi line,
yes,
look it up.
Yeah. Which will be interesting because that follows on with the push for the 20 teams, getting the 3 others, getting the PNG team. Where do they put, if they're getting 3 more teams, where do they put the other 2 if they've already kind of lined up PNG? Do they go out to the islands a bit more? Do they try to compete in Perth? Or do they just stay with the East Coast and try to fill in the spots of the East Coast as much as they can? So,
as crazy as it seems, the more time passes, the more I'm convinced that this 18th team is going to be a Papua team. Or
there's too much government money in it to not happen.
They're saying they might give them 600 mil.
Exactly.
Like, it's going to be hard to...
The Aussie government wants to give them money to Papua New Guinea to improve that country, and they just can't write them a blank check. They got to have a good reason, and having an NRL team there, it's we're supporting each other. Here's some infrastructure money as well to help with doing all that. Gives them a nice in to be able to give taxpayers monies to the PNG, because it's the thing, give them sports, and
they love it.
Give them massive sports, and they won't revolt. So a bit of get some Roman history on the chat. Gladiator games, it's modern day gladiator games. That's NRL. I don't think there's anything else happening at the moment.
outside of geopolitical Sean here.
Yep.
Controlling the Asia Pacific region.
The NRL, Peter V'landers is there trying to take over.
It's looking more and more likely, which 2 years ago I would have laughed at you just about. But it's going to be interesting to see. And for my OCD and anyone that doesn't like this 17-team comp, need to hurry up and get it done, please.
At least get that.
Buy rounds and stuff's just a mess at the moment.
Oh, yeah.
Very good. That's rugby league. Tune in next week. We'll do the Sydney teams.
Yep.
All right, let's talk about the biggest show on earth.
Just need to cool down.
Oh! He broke his ankles!
The Super Bowl, the Chiefs win it in overtime. I think only the second time that the Super Bowl's gone to overtime, which is pretty crazy. Taylor Swift gets the win in her rookie season. You couldn't have scripted it better, could you?
Yeah.
Going
politics, you know, she's going to endorse Biden and he's going to win, etc.
God.
They had to win so that, you know, everyone saw Taylor. It's all conspiracy. It's all scripted. It's
Didn't he talk about the French Prime Minister that was been dead for 10 years?
I'm confused with Mexico and Egypt. Right? Who cares?
Politics challenges. All right, let's talk strictly about the game. The 49ers defense started super duper strong.
Had the big play by CMC with the wide receiver quarterback pass across to him down the sideline to get the first touchdown. And they did, like you said, their defense, they felt like they were dominating a large portion of this game. You had the big angry Travis Kelce at Andy Reid during that first half. What were their thoughts on that? Did he cross the line? I think, Andy Reid drafted his brother, moved to Kansas City because of his brother, drafted him as well. His whole career has been there with Andy Reid. They know each other inside and out. I think their relationship's more father and son than you would say boss and employee. Yeah. So, Travis wanted to be in the game because he wasn't. They were taking him out for some of those situations. And he felt like he could be helping them. And, second half he did. And it was a big reason they won. So, I think that's the passion that they want. Maybe a bit of a cheap shot on the coaches, a little bit much. You can't shove a guy when you're in full gear. I think he did cross the line. It was interesting listening to. But having said that, Andy Reid was an offensive tackle, so he's a big dude in his own right.
I'm sure, looking back on it, Andy Reid gives zero fucks about it. They won the Super
Bowl. Different conversation.
Yeah, possibly.
I didn't think it really shoved him. I think Andy Reid would just it came out of nowhere and just absolutely shocked Andy Reid.
100%.
Surprised.
Yeah, surprise.
She's pants on the field, but
you're right. He wants those guys to be fired up. He wants them to want 100%.
To win. And I'm sure Andy Reid doesn't care. So that's
exactly
whose opinion matters the most. Obviously, a lot of people coming in and making comments and that's assault and the rest of that. I'm not sure if I go that far. It was a huge outburst of emotion
let me say this.
Passion.
Training camp next year, Andy Reid will get his back for sure. Travis will be. He may want to retire because he's going to be in the best shape of his life after next training camp.
And I think Travis with his third ring is probably going to go, yep, kick my ass in training camp.
As much as
that's all good, brother. I love you.
That's it.
But it was strange scenes on the sideline and sort of a little divisive. It was interesting listening to them on the New Heights pod and his older brother saying, I think you did cross the line.
Yeah, especially with all the cameras on, you're like, maybe do that in the locker room at halftime.
They were very good at being able to explain and articulate how professional athlete at their level feels in that situation, but also understanding that everyone's human as well.
Yeah, and
there are lines that you can't cross.
And it's a good discussion to hear it from the horse's mouth, and it's the world that we live in with new media as well, where it just used to, you'd have to listen to Skip Bayless's take on it back in the day, and lots of people still do, but now you can hear it from the horse's mouth, and he say, it wasn't good, and I apologise straight away. But he does talk about their relationship, and Big Red is like a father figure to him, and I'm sure he didn't really give a fuck.
Yeah, and I think also leading up to that, even going back to the Ravens game, the stuff that happened pre-game with Travis throwing around the.
I think Tucker was talking mad shit as well. So
I think that was sort of the storyline leading into the Super Bowl. It was he's
he's not a good man. He's not perfect for Swifty.
Hothead.
Yeah, he's a little bit. Yeah, he's
Is he the one?
The fame's getting to his head now. But again, professional athletes, there's a reason why the Kansas City Chiefs were in the Super Bowl because the players Kelsey,
they think differently.
100%. Yeah.
Well, he's in Sydney at the moment, supporting his missus.
At the zoo today as well, with Channel 7 helicopter circling.
I know a few blokes that have said they want to go to the concert and they'll be I'm here for Travis shirts and wear those instead.
Sure they are.
You see the jersey sales?
Yeah.
Look up NFL jersey sales at the moment.
Yeah.
He's top 3 or something.
Through the moon.
So again, this is the Swift effect.
Oh yeah. She's basically.
Didn't they mention that on their podcast as well?
Yeah.
Number 1 is Travis. I think they were talking about.
I think Jason's in the top 10.
Yeah. So I think it was in the UK. Travis was number 1 and Jason was number 2.
Madness.
But Jason's theory is that he's only number 2 because everyone thinks that Travis is they just see Kelsey.
I think it's the same.
Yeah, just see Kelsey jersey. And it must be him.
Yeah, I don't like red. I'd rather the green. Yeah. So
no one over there knows about NFL. They just see Kelsey. I'm like, oh yeah, that's him.
Yeah.
You hear him saying as well to his missus that you can wear a Kansas City jersey for today to support Travis, and she's like, no, I'm not doing that. I don't care about my brother-in-law. Yeah. It's funny.
I think she's a diehard Eagles fan. So even if Jason changes teams, I think she came out saying that she wouldn't wear his team. She'll wear a Kelsey jersey, but not a Chiefs
jersey.
Yeah.
Funny.
He's a funny lad as well. I think he celebrated
in the overalls.
He celebrated more than some of the other boys did, so he enjoyed himself.
He's in the old Mexican wrestling mask for bits of it.
So I guess going back to that whole point, leading into halftime, it really felt like the 49ers were on top in this game. You could see the frustrations. They had the lead. They had a 10-point lead at one point as well. But I think the Greenlaw injury really changed the game. Blows his Achilles running onto the field after they get the ball back. And then from there, if you look, I think it's Burks that replaced him. If you look at Burks' numbers, he was heavily picked on post that. And that really allowed, say, Travis Kelsey to get back into the game, to get more involved because he hadn't been. And it really opened up the middle of that field for them. And, that really, I think, was one of the big deciding points in this game was that. And that allowed the Chiefs, of course, to get some momentum, get the ball back, score some points, and then, essentially take the lead late in the fourth quarter before Brock Purdy did a bit of his own stuff to get them back equal before the overtime.
Just for maybe some of our more casual NFL fans that are listening, Dre Greenlaw was a top 100 player in the NFL last year, so that's quite an exclusive club. And then when he goes out, Oren Burks is handy, but he's not of the same, cut from the same cloth. They also have arguably the best middle linebacker in the NFL with Fred Warner, who was doing the job on Kelsey, but you lose his running mate in Greenlaw, and it was big shoes to fill. Yeah,
I think I saw something like he had a 100% perfect pass rating at him and gave up 140 yards and a bunch of catches. So, it's a big loss to lose one of your starting guys that had been there for a long time, and he's one of their big energy dudes as well. A few of their early hits on Pacheco kind of really set the tone, and they were really up for this game. They didn't start slow at all like they had previously to the Lions, I think, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, so they were really up and keen for this game. I think it's just unfortunate, and Chiefs just did what the Chiefs are going to do. They come back and dominate the second half to get the win.
What about the field goal records? So Moody went out and kicked the
55
longest,
to get the record, and then
Buck took it off him.
Took it off him. He kicked a 57-yarder. So I guess give the kickers a bit of love in the Super Bowl, but setting Super Bowl records for long field goals was pretty impressive.
Is that 3 times that Kyle Shanahan's had a 10-point lead in the Super Bowl?
In the Super Bowl and lost. He's 0-4 against Andy Reid. He's, questions about, can he win big games? And his exact quote was, well, we won big games to get there. Yeah. It is, I guess, fair. His record's been pretty good. Patrick Mahomes, they ran into the best current quarterback playing in the NFL. So, and for a team that arguably was probably not a great Kansas City teams compared to the previous ones.
Yeah.
Probably defensively better.
Yeah,
which is what kept them in this game. They kept him in the game, and then he could do his job when he needed to, and got them the win.
Remember in our Super Bowl preview, and I was like, their defense is better, their secondary is elite with McDuffie and Snead. And
Snead, yep.
And really, those guys shut down the receiving options for the 49ers. Obviously all the credit's got to go to Mahomes, Kelsey, Reed, etc. But a big shout out to that Kansas City defense.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Well, they held them to... So going into the overtime, they flipped the coin. 49ers win, elect to receive the ball, go down, kick a field goal. Of course, the Chiefs then respond, go and score a touchdown and win the game. What were your thoughts on the psychology, I guess, in the coin toss with the new rules that both teams would each get a possession, irrespective if they scored a touchdown or not? I'm kind of trying to wrap my head around what the thoughts was with the Kansas City Chiefs guys, because they were all like celebrating the fact that 49ers didn't want the ball first. Because, I get the idea of, what they've scored, you can chase it. Chasing's also good. But then on the flip side, having already scored a touchdown is like you're putting pressure on the other team to also repeat. Kind of, to me, it's still even. I don't think there's such a significant benefit from going second.
Well, they've obviously done their analytics and they've done the way that they like to look at it.
Yeah.
It's huge because you put the pressure on them if you score 7. Yeah. If you score 3,
it's the other way around.
Well, then they know we've got to drive. We've got to drive.
But there's still the pressure there. You still got to.
There's still pressure, and they had to convert on fourth down.
Play against a good, best defense in the league.
100%.
So.
They still had to go out there and execute.
Yeah.
But I think they had in their mind that they'd rather chase. And the cricket analogy is a good one here for any Aussie listeners. We only chase now, essentially, in T20 internationals.
Yep.
There's a lot of teams that are liking that in cricket, knowing what's on the board,
yep.
and then how hard you have to go.
Yep.
So you can see in Paddy Mahomes' face when he's out there for the coin flip and they chose to take the ball, his face lit up. He was like, shit, like that's what we want. If our defense can make a stand.
That's it.
And again, back to that killer mentality. Like I just had the feeling when this went to overtime, I'm like, Mahomes, Chiefs, that
deal done.
You just had that. You just had that feeling. Yeah. This is when
the script's in. Like we've seen it. They're gonna win.
This is when guys start separating themselves from great football players to goat conversation. Kind of stuff,
but also trusting your own team as well. Like
100%.
Knowing that your defense is going to go out there
and you got to make a stop. But if you don't make the stop, then it's on us.
Yeah.
Whereas it used to be like this is in our defense's hand. I may not get the ball back.
Exactly.
That's it.
I think the overtime rule is good. I think the US media probably beat up the fact that the 49ers did elect to receive more than they probably needed to. Because they didn't lose the game because they won picked to receive.
I think the problem.
I think they lost the game because they kicked a field goal instead of trying to push to potentially get 7. But
they lost the game because the one hand got an extra point gets blocked, and
there's that too.
Essentially, it goes down to that as well too.
There's a lot more moments that go into losing a game than the coin toss. I think the US media blew that out of the proportions a little bit.
Yeah, well, I think the main thing around what came out with the media was. The 49ers said that they didn't have any meetings around overtime rules. So it was less about the actual overtime, but more like
the preparation.
Yeah. And on the flip side, the Kansas City said, we spent, we had meetings all week about it, what we were going to do and decisions and stuff like that.
Just quickly, do you like the rule? Do you like it?
100%. I hated the rule.
Replies.
You see Paddy Mahomes go down, score a touchdown, and Josh Allen's on the sideline sulking because it's like, I didn't get a chance.
Didn't get a chance.
It's very much the college rules, and if you remember, was it Boise State and Oklahoma? I think Adrian Peterson, where they had that. Their rules slightly different, but
this is going back.
But the idea is you get the ball, you have to set something in the series, and the other team has to respond, and then if they respond, you have to respond. And then you go back and forth, back and forth. Of course, I think they start from like the 30 or 40 in that game, and punching it in the end zone to get touchdowns, whereas this is full drives. But it has the same kind of thing. You have to drive down the field, score, and then the other team has to drive down the field, score. If they do, you just keep going until there's a winner. So, I think it's a pretty good kind of rule. I like it.
You get the opportunity.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not going to get knocked out on the sideline.
Yeah, which we've seen time again with whether it was Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes or any of those big names. You win the coin toss and they're getting the ball, you're fucked.
Defense is tired.
Yeah.
It's harder to defend in the fifth quarter of football than it is in the first. That's for sure.
Yeah.
You got some jersey sales stuff there?
Yes, but I think this may just be US jersey sales because it kind of goes against what we were saying.
They've got CMC as one.
They've got CMC as one, yeah.
But Jason Kelce is high.
Jason Kelce is high.
Wow.
Consistently high as well. Jalen Hurts had the highest, was the number one selling jersey for most of the season. When Taylor Swift went to Travis's the Chiefs' first game, he got bumped up to number 3 in jersey sales.
There's the effect right there.
Yep. Conference finals, he was the 4th highest.
Yeah. So Trav was 4 and Jason Kelce was 3. Am I reading that right?
Yes. In the conference finals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
During the season,
that's Mahomes 3. Mahomes 3.
Oh, sorry,
Kelce 4. Travis Kelce 4 and Jason Kelce top 10.
Yep, that's it. Micah Parsons had a good stint up there as well in terms of jersey sales.
Until the Cowboys lost.
Yeah, that drops off very quickly.
Yep.
Rodgers as well. Look at the Rodgers.
Pre-season week 1.
Yeah.
Aiden Hutchinson towards the end of the back end of the season with Lions getting into the playoffs was... You saw a spike in jersey sales as well.
It's crazy. Look at the business side of things, hey?
Yeah.
And just how little things affect jersey sales.
Yeah.
Winning games, losing games.
That's it. Yeah, CJ Stroud.
Yep.
Yeah, jersey sales going into finals.
Winning fixes everything.
Funny that.
Average length of Patrick Mahomes' touchdown passes getting shorter and shorter and shorter.
Yeah, this year was under 4 yards. In comparison to like his rookie year with 2019, it was 17.3. It just kind of shows that they've, and I guess with Tyreek.
I was going to say, I reckon there's one huge.
You can see when that drops off.
They've changed. And credit to the Chiefs, they've changed how they run their offense essentially, and give Mahomes shorter fields and don't have to take deep shots all the time to be able to win games. So. I think it's just a growth in the team and what they're capable of. So, maybe that's a bit of what teams could do, take away the underneath stuff and force them to go a bit more deeper.
Where does it rank for you in terms of Super Bowls that you've witnessed?
I think it was a pretty good one. It's not as good as 2015, but
well, you're a Broncos fan.
yes.
To try,
but for recent memory, it was the two teams no one wanted in there. Out of the previous 4, essentially.
That is true.
But they put on a good show and good spectacle. Usher was solid at halftime.
Not one of the best shows, but certainly not bad.
No, it was
somewhere in the middle.
It was there. It was mid. That was 100% what it was.
I think the only problem with that is LA sort of set the benchmark.
Good luck beating that.
You can't. That sort of taints every other.
I feel like
every rapper in the Hall of Fame of rap is there.
Well, on that point, I think the best part of the segment was when Luda comes out, and then it's Luda and Usher. It's you need more Luda in this show. That's for sure.
What else did I want to say around that? The nostalgia of 08 to 2010.
Alicia Keys coming out as well.
For any Canberrans, Moose. I was like, Jesus Christ, I'm 19, I'm sipping on a Canadian club. It cost $3. Scenes.
That's it.
Or missing scenes, perhaps.
No, you touched on it before, it going to overtime, sort of being that lower scoring sort of Super Bowl in the past couple of years made it. It was a very competitive game to watch.
I think
good storyline.
Yeah. It's the thing that maybe you can't argue that it's one of the best Super Bowls of all time is we've seen so many good Super Bowls, especially in recent memory. Like last year with the shootout, 38-35, that was sick. Rams beating the Bengals was a good one. Then there was a few where the game was sort of decided leading into the end of it. The high scoring Philly special, Big Dick Nick Foles goes out and beats TB12. The 28-3 comeback the year before, we've had so many good Super Bowls, especially in recent memory.
You did just glaze over. TV doing it without Belichick.
yeah.
Well, yeah, but in terms of a game, like that's where I'm saying,
Yeah.
the
The
game was done essentially.
It was. Yeah, true,
leading
true,
into
true,
the.
Yeah,
the
but
end
Tom
there.
Brady dominating Kansas City, like Patty Mahomes, I think was a great thing to see. Well, I guess to finish off his career as well. Great, like there's been a lot of really good storylines as well. Where do you think Patty Mahomes is career-wise? A lot of talk about he's the GOAT already.
He's already the GOAT.
Name him the GOAT. I don't see what universe he's the GOAT.
Now.
It's the trajectory.
Well,
that
yeah,
on
and if time is, we're in space-time continuum, and maybe technically there is a universe where he is the GOAT and it's in 10 years' time.
Yeah.
Sure, we can have that chat in 10 years' time.
Get my fucking
Neil
time
deGrasse
machine.
Tyson can come on and explain it to us and how fucking time is relative and all that shit. Right now, the year's 2024, Patrick Mahomes is not the GOAT. I'm sorry. You can't. There's no argument that makes sense.
Yeah.
He might be the most talented quarterback that's ever played.
Yeah, and
Like in terms of physical,
he's definitely the best quarterback in the league
and
now.
game managing and clutch performance. You can argue that.
I'm a winner.
How can you argue that he's the GOAT ahead of TB12?
TB12, yeah. Even Joe Montana, like he's still got 2 more Super Bowls to get on his level. So
And you're going off projections, and you hit the nail on the head. Do you know how hard it is to win one of these things?
Yeah, he's got to win 4 more.
He's got to win 4 more. And okay, say he wins 5, you can start having the conversation. I think Brady's still probably, if it's just a ring off, and the fact that he was able to do it without Belichick in his fucking mid-40s.
Well, that's a cavity because you go, well, Mahomes he's already done it with Andy Reid. Andy Reid's an excellent head coach. Can he do it without Andy Reid? You have the same kind of conversations. But then you also look at the comparable record. Patrick Mahomes could have 2 more Super Bowls if it wasn't for Tom Brady.
Yeah, Tom Brady is Eli Manning to Mahomes that he was for himself.
Yeah, exactly.
Something like that.
Yes. He's
I know what he's talking about.
And I think Patty said it was like, even if I get there, like I still feel like it was Tom because when we competed, he beat me. Like our teams, our team lost to his team. They were just better
I can't
than
remember
us.
who was saying it during the week, but it's also the argument that the game's changed. So Tom Brady played at the level where quarterbacks were still getting absolutely smashed, whereas Patrick Mahomes is now a part of that protected.
But
QB
again,
league.
having said that, they played against each other at the same time, and he still beat him in the Super Bowl. So So like, yes, there is definitely in the early noughties, like there's a different NFL to what we have now. But his career was that long. Like he's had 3 Hall of Fame careers essentially in his career. He was just. He played with all these guys. He beat all the best, beat them all, beat every team I think there was in the league. So, I don't think you can say Patrick Mahomes is the GOAT now. Like, in 10 years' time, if he wins 4 more Super Bowls, let's have that conversation. But till that point, he's got a long way to go.
And I don't think necessarily has to win 7.
It's the main statistic. It looks important.
Yeah, it is important.
Pass yards, touchdowns.
Well, what if he throws for 100 more passing touchdowns and has 10,000 more passing yards?
It'd still be less than Tom Brady. So
no, more than Tom Brady. I would have to play till he's 50 to do that.
Yeah.
So
it's like
that's not going to happen.
That's the hard thing. You got to play into your 40s to be able to get to continue on that level. You got to remember, Tom Brady played in how many Super Bowls did he play in total? 10.
He lost 3. Yeah.
Lost 3. So played.
He lost to the Giants twice and the Eagles once.
Just 10 Super Bowls. Well, that in itself is nuts. That's almost half his career ended in a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Like it's such a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
So
we looked at his career stats and how often he made it just to the playoffs.
Yeah.
Let alone to championship games and
they were division champs every year. It's wild. Like
it's not even a conversation at present.
No, not as
and I'm not.
We're not talking LeBron and MJ. Like they're not on that comparable yet.
No, you can't. And I was saying to people as well that Brady's MJ and Mahomes is LeBron, and I'm like, no, the gap is still way too big.
It's very significant at this point. At this point in the career, they're very similar.
Yeah, that's right. If you want to go 28-year-old Brady to 28-year-old,
they both won 3 Super Bowls. They both scored roughly the same amount of touchdowns and passes. They are very comparable. Yes, he's on the right trajectory, But it's still really fucking hard to win a
win
four
one
Super
more.
Bowls.
Yeah, to win one more is going to be really difficult. So we'll see.
They're talking about three-peat. They want to do the three-peat. They all want to come back and try it.
Yeah.
Hasn't been done. I think the 49ers went really close back in the 90s. But, outside of that, I don't think anyone's won 3 in a row.
I know Buffalo lost 4 in a row.
Yes. Poor Buffalo.
I've got it here. No, I don't think anyone's done 3 in a row.
There's lots of 2s.
Yeah, lots of 2s. This was This was the first 2 since the Pats in 03-04.
Yeah, and then Denver, of course, in the 90s, and the 49ers as well in the 90s. And then the Cowboys, I think,
Cowboys,
as well.
92, 93.
Yeah. So
49ers, 89, 88.
Yep. Yeah, no team has ever gotten 3 in a row.
Steelers did it in the 70s. And they did it twice in the 70s. Dolphins did it early 70s.
Yep.
So plenty of teams have done it twice. Packers the first 2 Super Bowls. But 3 has not been done.
back to our point, it's really fucking hard to win the Super Bowl.
Really hard.
Everyone's chasing you. Everyone wants what you've got. Steals all you guys, etc. You know, like Chris Jones could be out of the contract on the move. Snead's out of contract on the move. Like that defense could be completely different. Like,
and you look at even the team from 2019 to 2023, there's only a handful of guys that were in that first one. Obviously, when you've got Mahomes, Kels, Chris Jones, I think, was on that one too. Pretty solid start.
Yep.
All right. That'll do us for NFL specific stuff. There's EA's announced that they're going to do a college football game for the first time in ages.
Yeah, been rumours that they were going to do and had at the Super Bowl. That didn't happen. There's fucking lots of Temu ads in the Super Bowl. They paid lots of money. But yeah, they did about a week after. They dropped the trailer for EA College Football 2025. So not this year, but next year. So yeah, they're going to have a college football game. Unsure who will be on the cover. Some talk about maybe Nick Saban as a
coach on there.
Yeah, as
interesting.
You know, I guess as one of the biggest faces in college football. He's one of them. So yeah, but yeah, if you're into Madden and you remember all the old NCAA games,
that was sick.
From yesteryear, which were really really good. It's coming back.
Yep. So the last one was NCAA football 14.
So 10 years.
Yeah, 2014.
And some of that has to do with rules changing for player likeness and them being able to make money off their own likeness.
I think there was the deal for all that legally with the EA and NCAA kind of all fell apart, and all with the money and things like that. Reggie Bush's Heisman, etc. So a lot of that stuff changed in the rules. So it was a bit hard to do. Different times.
For sure.
Yep. Yeah.
That'll do us for American football. It's probably the last that we talk about it up until the draft.
Yeah, well, Combine next week.
Yeah. Actually, we might want to talk about Combine a little bit.
Free agency 2 weeks after that, middle of March. And then draft is the end of April. So, yeah.
Yeah.
There's
still probably got some stuff to talk about.
Yeah,
we'll certainly talk about the Combine.
Yeah, I'm already deep in my QB analysis. I can't complete that during the week. So
and we might do a draft show again this year.
Yeah. QB class, probably the best that I've looked at in the last 5 years. Like any of those dudes, I think any of the 6 could be in the first round, and I think is all very serviceable for a starter for a team. So
could go.
It's very, very interesting.
Depending on what the Bears do, could go quarterback.
Yeah, and could be trades. The Falcons, Raiders are all in the talk. If Williams goes 1, what happens to Fields?
Yep,
lots of spots for him.
Yep.
If Denver's sick of Wilson, where does Wilson go? And then what is Denver going to do? Are they going to look at quarterback as well? So there's a lot of stuff to happen in the quarterback. I think there'll be a lot go. I think all 6 should go in the first round. Penix is probably the only question mark. If his knees are fucked, or knee is fucked, will he slide into like a second rounder?
McCarthy first round?
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah,
I reckon so too.
Yeah, he wasn't asked to do a lot of Michigan, but. The passes he threw, like he's so well coached. Yeah, which is probably one concern with him. Like you can tell that Harbaugh has really got the best out of him. His mechanics is like picture perfect. He's really fucking well coached. So you're just like, is there improvement there? Yeah. And you'd think so. Being he's the youngest quarterback as well out of those 6. He's 21. So yeah, you could get him on that 5-year deal, and he'd still be 26 by the end of it. So you're definitely value in there. He's got a really pretty ball. He's got great arm strength. And he was better. He was better than I thought he would be.
Yeah,
watching him. So I could definitely see him. I think he's flying up the boards, and it'll be interesting come combine time when they get some of those measurables. What they looks like. I think he's also super lean. A lot of them have still the boy's body. Once they go pro, they'll become men, etc.
Seen Tom Brady's draft combine pick?
Yeah.
He looks like a dad.
He had a dad body. The opposite. But they just look. They look young, boy fat. Still a little bit pudgy. Wait until they get in an NFL weight room and take Josh Allen, what he became. You can see, that's what you want to see, their growth there. So I've been pretty impressed with this class so far. A lot of really good talent there.
Sweet. We'll talk combine, free agency, and then the big one in April. Draft.
Yeah, super keen. Horny.
Let's talk some NBA.
Curry sets, fires, puts it up. Bang!
NBA All-Star Weekend. They had the fancy light-up court. Dunk contest, a little underwhelming, I think, on years past. Mac McClung goes back-to-back, showing that... I was about to call him short. I think he's 6'2". I don't think he's still a reasonable height.
I don't think he was expecting to face Jaylen Brown in the final either. So it was a bit of an interesting thing in that one.
Did you like the dunk going over Shaq?
Yes, of course. It's still sick. But, Jaylen Brown trying to jump over a dude sitting on a chair was meh as a comparison.
Have you seen Bill Gates try to jump over a chair?
True. Yeah. I've seen a lot of comments.
Electric.
I've seen a lot of comments. It was like the dunk contest died when LeBron turned it down. So, I think, come on, LeBron, just do one next year.
Could you imagine?
Yeah.
Him versus Bronny?
There you go. Interesting matchups. They had some fun. Like Sabrina,
Ionescu, I think.
Yeah, during the weeks leading up to it, it was like, hey, give me a shoot off against Steph Curry, and we'll see what happens. Curry's like, fuck yeah, let's do it.
Yeah,
and that was one of the cooler events things that they did. So,
and dude, she did herself absolutely no disservice whatsoever. Lost to Steph Curry. Oh, what a loser! She got the same that Dame got.
So Dame won the 3-point contest that Curry didn't participate in, scored 26, and then she went out and got 26 herself.
And she was shooting from the male line as well.
Shooting the NBA 3-pointers.
Further than your mechanics and how that's going to throw everything out. That's, I don't know how much she's practiced there shooting from a longer 3-point line. It's insane. And it's so sick for girls, of any sport, but particularly for girls that are playing basketball to see that go, wow, she's holding her own out there against the GOAT of 3-point shooting.
Yeah, well, it put the pressure on, and Curry said it. It put the pressure on. I had to perform, and he got 29. So he had, he's just like, fuck. I'm the best shooter. I got to stick to my guns. So,
that's pressure there.
Yeah. So it was pretty impressive. Curry, I think, can't deny that he's the best 3-point shooter in the game. But I think Dame,
ever.
And I think Dame might steal the long range, from the logo. He scored a few logo threes in this All-Star game. So he might have him in the long game. But it was, it was fun. But, gimmicky, I think, still the main thing. And then when you get to the actual All-Star game...
I think the 3-point contest is the best thing from the whole weekend.
Yeah, the All-Star game, no defense, 400, almost 400...
It was 400 points.
Well, did they get 400 points? Between, it was 211 to 190 something. So, 400 points in an All-Star game. There was no defense to be seen anywhere. There was so much silly shit as well. I think Luka had 8 points or something. He was just trying to shoot baskets from dumb areas. But I don't know. There were some reports that I can't remember the exact guys. There's a few old heads. Maybe Larry Bird was one of them because they know he was there. Talked to both teams before the game. We need competition. We need it to be, you need to have some level of defense. Otherwise, they're not going to keep doing it because it's going to be a shit show. And
the viewing is horrible.
Yeah, and you know what? They didn't really take it. They were just like, we're just going to go out there have fun.
Well, it's the big men side of things. When there's no defense, watching paint basketball it sucks.
Watching Joker just fuck around. I guess it's funny, but it's not basketball.
I think the paint stuff is boring. The 3-point shooting, okay, it's not too bad, but it's a bit gimmicky. It wasn't quite 400 points; it was 397.
There you go. Yeah.
But that was the highest scoring of all time.
Yeah, I think the big thing I took away from, I can't remember who said it and what the quote was, but he basically said that these guys play harder in pickup games. Back home,
100%. Yeah,
they just show up and like guys playing basketball, they jump in a pickup game and they go way harder than they would in this. So,
How do they revitalise it? Because obviously these guys, when they're on $50 million a year, you don't want to get hurt playing a game that essentially means nothing. Seeing it in the NFL, them getting rid of the contact Pro Bowl and just going to flag football. How do in American sports How do they get intrigue in these All-Star games, or should they just name the All-Stars and then fucking that's it?
Yeah, I guess I don't mind what the NFL's doing to take like a celebration kind of angle to it. I think flag football being an Olympic sport will potentially help the Pro Bowl long term. It's not going to help it short term. Like you've got your best guys playing equivalent of flag football, and it was a pretty. Interesting.
I used to watch it every year.
Yeah, I think the Pro Bowl of what it was, seeing Sean Taylor light up punters.
Brian Mormon, rest in peace.
Yeah, it's the kind of, they're the kind of things you look for, but you don't get that anymore. And I think, and with football concussions and head and injuries in general from the contact sport, I get the flag football, and it still I think was pretty cool. Viewership numbers were down, and people just aren't interested in that because they want hard football. But I can see long term that maybe that'll work out. I think they need to add more cool events that they missed out, like longest pass, fastest wide receiver, some shit like that.
You didn't like the long snaps trying to get it in the hole?
I didn't, because they are centers who weren't long snappers to try and do it. He's not there. None of those guys were actual long snappers.
I think Jason Kelce got 0.
Yes, exactly. He did also try to get the highest point number in his entire time. So but they're not like long snappers that are equivalent trying to do that. So
I don't know. I think I think there's just too much money in the NFL and in the NBA.
That's the problem now.
They have to do something. Is just what did you turn it into? So like skills events, like where there's no danger, I think is fun. But whether they turn this into like a horse game instead.
And it's literally the All-Stars and they're playing horse. Or they're doing something.
Or 3-on-3, like I don't know, something different, and maybe a 3-on-3 tournament. Like I don't know, so something that's a bit more fun.
Again, 3-on-3. If there's no defense, I don't see how it's going to be entertaining to watch. But it's certainly year by year becoming less and less intriguing.
I agree.
What if you had players playing out of position?
Well, they were essentially. They were just fucking around in this game.
How do you
NBA,
And how do you enforce it in the NBA?
Oh, in the NBA,
I was thinking more. I was thinking back to the NFL.
We're trying to reduce injuries.
Well, I think they did.
Patty Mahomes, you're lining up.
You're
lining up at receiver.
Yeah, with that
I think they had fun in the flag football. Like I can't remember. I think some of the defensive guys switch sides and they're playing.
Oh yeah, you'd always have a bit of that.
A bit of fun, but
having like a lineman thinking that they can play quarterback or something like that.
Again, I don't know how that makes it more interesting to watch.
No idea.
It'd be funny, but I don't know.
It's like the celebrity game in the NBA.
Yeah.
That is horrible. Like, that is so bad.
Well, it's fun watching Myles Garrett dunking on fools. A big fucking unit.
Or if they make it celebrities, but everyone's an athlete. It's all cross-sport kind of athletes or guys that actually have some kind of athletic talent.
Yeah.
Like
streamers like Kai Komet, like... he's a big draw card, but he's not a basketball player or anything.
Fuck no.
Yeah, he showed...
May as well have us there.
He's showing Shannon Sharp like he had his own little highlight reel, and he picked it up on it. He was playing against like high school kids, like they were 12, 13-year-olds. They're all short of them. They're like, bro, what are you doing? He's like, come on, they can hoop. Like, brother, what?
They're 12.
Yeah, and he's not a big dude by any imagination, but it's just getting clowned on.
Yeah.
Speaking of three-peats, and it's hard to do, there's been a few three-peats in the three-point contest. Larry Bird and Craig Hodges did it back in the 80s and 90s. Dame now back-to-back. I assume he goes around next year. Maybe there's a little bit of intrigue around that. Thoughts on the court? The light-up court, it's a function of the times that we're living in, and they're trying to...
Did they use the AEI thing they were going to do, where they could highlight players and the potential plays they were going to run? I think they...
Not live. You could.
They were planning to do it live.
Yeah.
I reckon they probably canned it, considering they weren't running any plays.
It'd be too fast-paced to try and predict some of that stuff.
No, it's pretty good. Like, they would highlight the play with the ball and potential patterns, because AI's pattern awareness is its good thing. And if you're running plays over and over again, like in situations, it can figure out these are the most likely things they're going to do in this situation, where his outs would be. So they were showing a bit of that leading into it, they're going to use it, and how it attracts the players and where and potential lanes and that. But considering how a bit of a shit show the game was, I can see why they potentially didn't use it.
Nah, and they had it running for the dunk contest, but that just sort of as they ran, it sort of did like a trail kind of thing.
Yeah, like a fire trail.
Yeah,
fire sort of thing.
Exactly. But through the game, no. And in fact, it was nicer on my eyes than the play-in tournament courts, which were abusing my eyes and their ability to see the ball.
Yeah. I think, it's cool. Again, it's just completely gimmicky.
Yeah.
I don't know how it is to play on for the players, but interesting.
It'd be interesting to see how they try to keep intrigue and what their viewership numbers are like.
I agree.
Shout out to Sabrina. She was the star of the weekend, I reckon.
Definitely.
All right, let's bring it back to Oz. We'll talk a little bit of cricket. One of the crazier finishes in a T20 game in recent memory happened last night with Tim David hitting the winning runs off the last ball. Australia needed 4 off the last ball. He picked the gap down at deep mid-wicket to get the win in the first of 3 T20s. Tell you what, they did it the hard way. Ravindra is an absolute... superstar in the making, and Conway at the top of the order. They look pretty handy, the Black Caps, in the short format, and will definitely be a smoky leading into the T20 World Cup. What do we think of the game?
I think it was a good game of cricket. New Zealand came to play. You benefit playing in the smaller grounds that they can hit the ball around a fair bit, and I think Australia... not lucky, but I think they probably could have done more with the ball, and I think batted really well to escape with this win.
Bit of luck, I think. There was involved. Australia didn't bowl well. We had a lot of sundries. I think we bowled 12 wides, which is just about unheard of. Yep. But New Zealand dropped catches. We left our run super late, so a little bit of luck involved for sure.
Anytime you leave it to the last ball to win.
You could say there's a bit of luck involved.
But I guess credit to Tim David and the captain Marsh for putting us in that position there at the end. I think they needed 40 off 15, and to get them close enough to need the last couple off the last over was pretty good.
Tim David had 31 off 10, and I think he only had 3 off his first 3 balls or something. He went absolutely berserk, and they're certainly priming him for that finishing role leading into the T20 World Cup. I think you were saying pre-show that his strike rate's up around 200 over
200,
over his last few games. So. Really looking like one of the world-class finishers. Yeah,
because you look at the squad and you're like, he's the question mark. Why is he in there? Why is Steve Smith not in the squad? And it's just like, well, this is the reason, because he's the new finisher, and he plays really well in that spot.
I think it's going to be interesting going into the World Cup. I don't know if Steve Smith's in our best 11
for T20.
No.
There's so many other guys banging down the door at the moment.
Yep.
Yeah. It's his own fault because he doesn't play a lot of T20.
Right.
Hey, he's making bulk runs all the time in T20 that he needs to be picked.
And he's a competitor, and he obviously he'll be in the World Cup squad.
Yeah,
but
it's one of our
I don't
best
know for
sticks.
him, if how high it is on his to do list. I'd imagine winning another Ashes and possibly having another World Test Championship under the belt might be higher priorities.
Yeah. My favourite thing from this game and leading up to this game was the Bison talking about he can't wait to boss around Paddy Cummins in this. So
the role reversal.
Yes.
He's pretty good. The Bison 72, not off 44, hit 7 sixes. His form with the bat is immaculate.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to the under 19 men getting the
Beating India in a tournament. Shock.
Yeah, India losing a major tournament.
Yeah, they haven't had a good 12 months, the old Indians.
Yeah, Australia's father of India forever. Clip it. Clip it. Interesting. So actually the first time that Australia had won the tournament since 2010. So it's good to see the youth coming through. And it's going to be interesting to see from that list who ends up going on with it with their careers. I saw a graphic with the MVP from the Under-19 World Cup since its inception. Not many big names. Josh Hazlewood was amongst it, but it's a lot of these guys unfortunately seem to peak young and then didn't go on to have huge test careers. Now that's from the MVP. I'm sure if you went through the squads,
guys.
every single under-19s team throughout, they littered with test cricket.
Got to remember, it's a very hard squad to break into, and there's guys that are in there for a very long time.
That's right, and you're only under 19 for a few years. You know, you're not going to be playing at an elite level until you're 17, 18. So you really got a 2-year window to be in those teams. Having said that, there's certainly a few names to keep an eye on there.
Yeah, definitely.
India smacked England up. A huge win.
Win by a whole innings. Baz Bowler's dead.
Yeah, I don't know if Baz Bowler was ever alive, to be honest. Moral victories and things.
Yeah, exactly. Just throw the bat at something and hope for the best.
Yashavji Jaiswal, back-to-back double hundreds for him. That's 2 double hundreds in 7 tests. Just what we needed. Just what we needed. Another elite Indian top order batsman who I think he's only 21.
Yeah.
So he's doing his career no harm, scoring bulk runs there. Kohli did have a baby, so there's fair bit of speculation around what was going on there. They did a good job of keeping that out of the prying eyes.
His wife's a bit of a megastar as well.
Of the media, so she must have just been pretty much on house arrest.
That's
for quite some time.
This is probably why he hasn't been playing in the test matches. He couldn't just leave his missus and say, hey, I'm going down to play with the boys. He's obviously been on house arrest himself just so that nothing leaks out, and they kept it all quite quiet. Hopefully there wasn't any complications or anything leading up to it for the reason for why Kohli was not playing, but by all accounts, I think he was just there to support his wife through the end of the pregnancy.
Is that Akai? Akai, maybe?
Okay, yeah.
Assume so.
Akaay.
There you go.
Diverse cultural interpretations, including shining moon in Turkish. What's it in Sanskrit? Bodiless.
Bodiless, yeah.
Oh, there you go. A little bit of Sanskrit chat here on the Esky.
Yeah.
So congrats to him. He, like we said last week, last podcast, he's out of this series completely. Probably don't need him though. Way they've been playing at the moment.
I don't think they're missing him. To be honest, enjoy the newborn stage there, Virat, and we'll see you down under next year.
Can you check the Indian squad for me, Jimmy? Because Bumrah is out for this, so they're going to have to bring someone else in. But I think they're a bit banged up actually. I feel like they're going to have to make 3 changes to the squad leading into the 4th Test match, I believe. Because they're a little bit banged up. Did also see Rishabh Pant playing cricket, so it looks like he's not too far away, which is really good. And his recovery post the big accident.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've seen him playing cricket. So Siraj and Bumrah are the only quick options that they went with, and then with the 3 spinners with Ashwin, Yadav and Jadeja. I imagine if Mo Shami's fit, it's probably straight swap for him. Have you got that squad there yet?
Any news?
Not just yet, because it doesn't start till the weekend, so we won't have any idea.
Just any news and potential selections. Maybe I can have
there's no Shami. So Mukesh Kumar might be coming in. They've got Washington Sundar, but obviously not a pace option, or Akshar Patel. So you'd imagine they need to go another quick. So yeah, I don't know if it's going to be that Kumar as the next man up there. Ben Duckett, you got to give some credit where credit's due. That was an incredible knock. Scored half their runs in the first innings, 153 at a runner ball, but then just no other resistance really
what do you
from the Poms.
What do you think about their take on Joe Root? He's being asked to bowl a lot.
Yeah.
Is it affecting his batting? He actually bowled the most.
He bowled 27 overs and opened the bowling.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a big ask for, your
best stick.
For your best stick who's batting 4 and hasn't scored runs, hasn't scored runs to his standard, I suppose. In recent memory. It's a huge ask for him. What did he bowl? He bowled 27 overs. And then,
they didn't go back out. So.
Yeah, I don't know. Also, he's, bowling spin off a short run up if it's not oppressively hot.
It's India, bro.
Yeah, it's also winter.
So it's oppressively hot.
I don't think India is a big country. It sort of depends on where they're playing.
Depends on their play, yes, I know.
It is a big ask, and they've only gone with the 2 recognised quicks with Anderson and Wood, and obviously the quicks aren't getting through much work. So I don't know. I think it maybe is a testament to their lack of spin depth as well to go with someone to partner Hartley. They went with that young Ahmed who bowled without much luck. It's nearly the polar opposite of India, who don't have huge quick depths, but they're
all the
Akshar Patel probably walked into an England or even Australian lineup.
100%.
Yeah.
Broken bat.
So 1 apiece leading into the 3rd test.
No, it was
2-1 leading into the 4th test. Yeah. Deleted a test from my memory there. Haven't been following as closely, I must say, over this test, given Super Bowl. And,
there's been a lot going on.
Yep. Work and our real jobs, etc.
Yeah.
And it's India and England.
Well, it's enthralling. It's beautiful time. Yeah, times in terms of viewing. It's
true.
When's that 4th game start?
Yeah, is it Sunday? Is it Saturday?
3 p.m. tomorrow.
It's tomorrow. Friday. Let's go. Let's go. And where's that? Ranchi.
Yes, Ranchi.
So India looking to wrap up the test match. England looking to force a decider. Geez, that'd be fun for it to go 2 apiece. Have a 5th test.
Yeah.
Don't think it's likely, but it would be fun.
I agree. New Zealand continue to smash this South Africa. You've got a B side. It could even be a South Africa C side.
Yeah. Victim. Kane Williams very happy. He keeps scoring centuries. So
that's 7 in 7 tests for Kane Williamson. He hasn't scored he doubled up in one of those, so it's not 7 consecutive. There was one in Bangladesh where he didn't turn up. And the Saffers actually started okay in this, but it was a Williamson masterclass in the New Zealand second innings. He now has the most 4th innings hundreds. It is equal. Who was it equal with? Yunus Khan from memory, perhaps, but he's got 5 4th innings hundreds, and he just needs one more to have that outright. So when you talk about making runs when the conditions are hard and your team most needs it, Kane Williamson right up the top there.
So has he equaled Smith at 33, or is he still one behind?
I think he's equal. We're going to ask a lot of you monks. I'll chase that up now. If you monks just bring up his last few knocks.
Yeah, I know Steve Smith has got 33, so we just need to know how many Kane's got.
List of...
Because of the Fab Four, he's very quickly moved up that list.
Yeah, most hundreds Test cricket. This will give us a good look for everyone.
Yep. He's on 32.
So he's one behind.
Yep.
Oh, no, they're equal.
Smudge
and Williamson are 32 apiece. Root is 30.
Yeah.
Cole is 29.
Correct.
So certainly a 2-horse race for those two in terms of Test cricket at the moment. Look at the names ahead of them as well, who they can jump in the incoming years.
Yeah,
Cook, Jai Warner, Lara, Gavaskar, Yunus Khan. All within two. Then a bit of a jump up to Dravid and Sangakkara, and then who knows if they'll get into the 40s. That might be a tall order for any of them. If anyone's likely, Smith and Williamson to get into the 40, and then you're in the real upper echelon. And then obviously no one's catching Tendulkar at 51.
Yeah. Carlos at 45.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think it, but yeah.
His numbers, dude, are crazy. Like when you add his bowling there, like he has one of the best batting numbers of all time, and then handy sort of standalone bowling numbers. So the fact that the bloke was an all-rounder and a unanimous best all-rounder of all time, but if he was just a batsman and just a bowler, incredible numbers. Yeah.
Finish with some Shield cricket. With the boys now heading over to play T20. The Australia 11, some of those guys are now back playing Shield cricket. So Cam Green got a century. Quickly took over Cameron Bancroft, who was at the crease a lot longer, but Bancroft also got another century. So that's
7 in 18 months.
7 in 18 months. No one has managed more than 4 in the exact same period.
The argument's got to continue. What is the Shield for? If it's meant to be the tryouts for the Australian team, again, we've done the topic to death. You can check out the old videos. My feeling was he had literally the runs on the board to bust into that team. But then who misses out? Is it Mitch Marsh or is it Cam Green or is it someone else?
Exactly.
Talent-wise and looking towards the future, it's pretty hard to leave Cam Green out.
Yeah. Speaking of which, Will Pucovski got his century.
How good.
Yeah, good. And, he kind of said it himself, like, hopefully this now starts my journey, hopefully back into the Australian team. Still pretty young. He's got plenty of cricket ahead of him if he wants to do that. And Peter Hanscom as well got a century. So, a lot of those guys there on the fringe, a lot of centuries in the Shield. Typical Shield things. They had a lot of big name Australian guys from the even the Australian 11 playing in Shield cricket. 0 crowds to the point it was almost 0.
It doesn't make a difference. No one. That's one thing that the Big Bash League has completely killed. And we talk about the impact of T20 cricket on Test cricket, and luckily Test cricket is still, in most cricket lovers' opinion, the pinnacle of cricket. The Shield, on the other hand, is dead and buried.
Yeah, but like guys like Marnus and Ken Green are playing in it, and he's like, you turn out for those guys playing in the IPL, but in a Shield game,
Also, a weekday, are you going to take a day off to go watch Shield cricket if they brought a game to Canberra, if Cam Green was playing?
Yeah, true. Maybe, because we had nuffies, but...
What do you think that means for the future of Australian Test cricket as well? Like, if you've got all these cricketers... I think moving more towards T20.
Yeah, I think we've done it. We've done it before. I think Australia, England, India. There's no dramas moving forward. Well, at least in the next 10 years.
When were they bitching about the Shield? Was it after we lost the Ashes? Maybe 10 years ago. Like, there's not enough Shield. Like, the guys don't play enough red ball, so they're not prepared for it, etc.
Yeah,
I think they've kind of come around. And they're playing enough Shield. Like, there's guys coming through the system and. Yes, the T20 leagues are here and it's here to stay, and you just got to, if you're good, you're going to be good. So you just got to play and score runs, and you'll get into the squad.
Yeah, it's interesting from a preparation perspective, because that's where has been. Sometimes people have been critical. Oh, why are they playing white ball cricket right up into the lead up to a tour of India, or right up into the lead into an Ashes? They should just be playing bulk Shield, and that's why it will always have an important standing in Australian cricket. And the fact of the matter is, most young Australians still want to play Test cricket. So the only way you're playing Test cricket is by playing a lot of Shield and most likely some county cricket too.
Yeah, if you don't play any Shield, you can't break into the Australian 11 for Test cricket
unless you're David Warner. Yeah. There's really only a few exceptions to the rule. Aussies,
the girls win.
Yeah, the girls won big in Perth. Elisa Healy stranded on 99, poor thing. But Annabelle Sutherland was the story of it. I think there's only 4 girls that have scored double tons.
Yep.
So she joins Elise Perry as the only Aussie girls to have done it back since Karen Rolton of Karen Rolton Oval fame. She did it 23 years ago. But recent times, it's only Sutherland and Perry that have scored double tons. So good on them.
Jo Reed could learn a thing or two because she backed up and bowled a big spell afterwards. So.
She did.
Yeah.
She's only 22, and we saw brother Will into the Australian ODI team. So a huge 2 weeks for the Sutherlands. Yeah, incredible stuff. That'll do for us for cricket. We'll keep an eye on these T20s, but really interested in this Chapel Hadley trophy. That will just be a 2-test thing. I wish it was 3, but 2 tests. Only just over a week away till the first test. Talk a little bit of soccer and then into a final round. I am just conscious of the time. We'll do a quick soccer. All right.
Yeah, soccer. Grab the table for us, Jimmy.
Yeah, bring up that table. We'll talk about this Mbappe deal.
Yeah. Will they, won't they sign this deal? It's
been going on for a while now, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think we first said something maybe like December, and they had to say, no, it's not happening, et cetera, et cetera. It looks like the deal's pretty much done. I've seen that his salary per year is small. I think it's like close to 20 mil a season, but there's 100
Poo change.
Yeah, but there's 166 mil sign-on bonus.
Huge, so transfer fee.
Exactly, you sign on and get a big coinage out of that. So it's looking very close that deal is going to be done, and he'll make his move over to Real. Fabrizio
Romano is saying it's pretty much a done deal. Yeah. So he's essentially the Schefter or the Waj of football transfers. So
he is.
Looks like it's going to happen. Valid from July 1. So we'll likely finish the season with PSG and then head over to the La Liga Giants.
And it's interesting looking at that table because it's changed since I made the notes yesterday because Man City had their win and took the top, but Liverpool have come through.
So they smashed Luton, was it, this morning?
Yeah.
And with a pretty B side, like Salah didn't play. They had a few outs. And obviously it's just Luton, but they played pretty well. So they still have outright first and are 4 points clear of City. City do have that game in hand. Arsenal putting away some of the lowly teams. They put 5 on hapless Burnley during the week. Villa still holding on to 4th spot.
I say 6 on West Ham, jeez.
Yeah, and then Spurs, United. Essentially, that's the top 6 are the ones vying for those 4 Champions League spots.
Yeah,
United have got things together in the last month.
I think we've kind of cleared into tiers. Like there's the top 3, which are the only teams I think that can compete to win now.
Liverpool, City, Arsenal.
Yep, and then the other 3 are kind of
Champions League spots.
Yeah, Champions League spots. There,
Villa, Spurs,
they've lost touch since we last talked. They won't be able to compete there. But yes, it's for the Spurs, can they get back to 4? Can they hold on to the 4th spot? They've had a bit of they haven't had a great run the last 5.
I think Son playing Asian Cup as well is probably a big out.
And Villa have been playing pretty well, and then United, like you said, have started to get their shit together and have had a pretty good run of it.
They're certainly not going to win the league, but they'll be pushing for Champions League. That's for sure.
Definitely. And then there's a big middle of the pack there. Everton luckily have at the moment snuck ahead just. Of course, with Luton losing. But they're still on the cusp there with.
Well, I think Sheffield and Burnley are done.
Yeah, they're done.
And then it's going to be either Everton, Luton,
not Forest.
Not Forest or Palace, Brentford. They're all in relegation danger, but they're still a good two games ahead.
Yeah. So very interesting if Everton can hold on.
Well, they got docked 10, didn't they? So they'd be sitting 12th.
And I haven't seen anything about further docking for their second infringement. But yeah, it's.
I'll blow up if Everton gets docked and City doesn't. Made money in their history.
Yep.
All right, so yeah, business end of the season. I think City and Liverpool are 2 weeks away, or I don't think it's this weekend. Can you find out actually when that is?
And Arsenal are very, very close behind.
Because that's close to league decide. Well, nothing's deciding the league at this stage, but it's a huge game upcoming between Liverpool and City. Whilst you chase that, have you seen Bayern lost back-to-back in Bundesliga? So Bayer Leverkusen staring down the Bundesliga title would be the first time in 11 years that Bayern Munich hasn't won it. So interesting stuff over there. Liverpool. 11th of March, so it's still a good 2 weeks away.
Yeah, 2 games away though.
Yeah, so that's Liverpool City. Don't want to say it's deciding the league, but certainly going to go a big way into in shaping the last few months.
How many games they got left?
They're 26, so they got 12 games left. So it's literally 2/3 of the way through the season at the moment.
Yeah. Not a bad run home for Liverpool, actually.
Is that Liverpool's run?
Yeah.
So Sheffield, they play United as well. Start of April. Palace, Fulham, West Ham.
Spurs Villa
towards the end. Yeah, that's interesting there. But
Wolves to end.
It's not littered with big games, is it?
Yeah, and they've got Luton before Sheffield there, Luton, Everton. Not Forest. Sorry,
it's
next.
It's not a bad run home. What's Arsenal's run home? Because they playing attacking football. They're scoring goals left, right, and centre. Newcastle, Sheffield, Brentford, Chelsea, City.
So they play City as well.
They do play City. Yeah. Luton, Brighton.
Yeah, they got a pretty good run as well.
Villa
Wolves, at the end.
Spurs. There we go. A nice derby towards the end. They finish with United. And Everton. So they've got that mid run where they don't play heap of.
Assume City's going to be very similar.
Yeah. What's City's run home like? I feel like it stinks like City coming home with it. I feel like
they got United and Liverpool soon.
That's big. So the next
and then into Arsenal.
Wow.
Into Villa. Yeah, they've
got probably the hardest run home.
And Spurs.
Yeah, and Spurs, they've got the harder run home for sure.
Especially the next 6 weeks. So they actually finish okay, but all those big games for City are in the next 6 weeks.
Yeah, well, they play everyone else in the top 6. So
yeah,
they got a tough run.
So City of the top 3 have the hardest run.
Yep.
I don't know. I feel like I've seen this movie before. KDB back.
Haaland's going to score all the goals, etc., etc.
Yep.
All right, let's do a final round. UFC 298. It's a sad day for Aussie fight fans, but
bit of happiness, bit of sadness.
Well, yeah, Bobby Knuckles got the win, but you got to give credit to where credit's due. Ilia Topuria, the new featherweight champion of the world, undisputed champ,
5th champion in that division as well.
Yeah, but division that's been dominated by just a few names.
Yep.
So second round knockout for Topuria, nice combo, and it was the right hook.
Yeah, big right hand
on the chin.
Bloke's got the power, that's for sure.
Yeah, he's got uncanny power for a 145 guy, doesn't he?
Yep. Yeah, I know someone else that he kind of resembles and makes his game after a little bit. That also did that in the featherweight division, being Conor McGregor. But yeah,
what do you think about the call out for Conor at the end of the fight? If you still got some balls, he said.
Well, Conor, isn't he going to fight Michael Shannon at middleweight? So I
feel like Conor can fight anyone who he like. Yeah, it's his pick.
He only wants money fights and featherweight. And he hated making that weight cut, so I don't ever think he's going to do that again.
So there's 2 things here. I think Topuria, he's the featherweight champ. Well done. Hasn't lost. Well done. I don't think he's got the name value for Conor to come back. And in the weight cut, I think you're right. I think if he does want to fight anyone, he's not fighting at 145.
And for Topuria, that makes sense because you don't want to fight anyone else in that division because they're all killers. Max Holloway is a great fighter in there. And there's heaps of Rodriguez as well. It's a really stacked division, and give credit to Volk for dominating it for 4 years during that period. So definitely congrats to him.
Was chasing Islam what's undone his career, do you think?
It's hard to say. Definitely the back-to-back knockouts now are going to ask a lot of questions. I think Volk kind of looked good. His combinations were good. His strategy was looking good. Hated how, and I think everyone picked up on commentary. He's exiting when he was going backwards. He had his head up high and his chin up a bit higher than he should have. Whether that played a factor into getting knocked out, but I think most people get hit by a shot again, knocked out. It's just a question of, with his longevity, being in all those fights, long fights, it does wear on you. Has the wear and tear finally caught up with him is the big question. Getting head kicked by Islam and then getting knocked out here with the right hand. Yeah, is Volk, not past it, but he's past. Well, you
can say he's past it. He's
hit his peak. He's had his domination, and he's five defenses there against great fighters. And is he going to be the same again? Has he lost that step? That was my concern, and that was, of course, why I was a bit down on it. Watching the fight, I was just like, I'm thinking back, it was like, I don't know how Volk wins this fight. Because you don't see a lot of wrestling out of Volk. Maybe, what does that change the game plan or anything?
Well, Topuria's striking looked insane.
Yeah, well,
so does he need to get him to the ground and try to wrestle the shit out of him?
Yeah, well, that's the question with Volk, because for me, I think if he fights it like he's fighting Max Holloway and you're in and out, jabbing the shit out of him, landing, because I think Volk won the first round, was probably winning the second on volume alone. But that's not putting Topuria away. And the longer you strike with him, the more chances you're going to give him to potentially knock you out. So it's a bit of fight and fire. It's just a hard one. You see what's his avenue for victory in that. So
does Volk deserve the rematch, or does the fact that he's been knocked out in consecutive fights mean it's a Max or a Yair?
It's hard because you get completely. Planted face down, knockout in the second round. Like, it's hard to give you a rematch. But considering some of the rematches have already been given, and considering Volk was the longest active champion in the UFC for that 4 and a bit years, like, if anyone deserves a rematch, it would be him.
Yep.
But the result of the fight kind of leads you to think, well, do you want to run that back and see that? Hard to say.
I feel like the UFC maybe owes him a solid in the fact that he's had 5 title defenses.
Stepped in a short notice.
Took on a fight at a higher weight class that he's used to when he's been on the piss for a month. To go travel to the Middle East, takes that fight. Obviously didn't work out well for him.
Probably shouldn't.
Does Dana say, well, look, you've done us a massive solid there. If you want this fight in Spain, it's yours. If you lose that, then maybe you need to be thinking about hanging up the gloves.
Yeah, but I think if you think of the UFC, the most sellable thing they have for Topuria in Spain isn't going to be any of these other guys. Volk's the biggest name of the champion. So if they want to sell that fight big in Spain, you got to run it back with Volk and see what happens.
Would Volk want to rush into a rematch, or would he want to sit back, think about, like you said, what he needs to do to change up his game if he's striking?
That's a good question.
Well, there's nothing booked, so I think that Spanish fight would be at least 6 months away. So maybe that's enough time.
Would you want more than 6 months?
He probably would want more than 6 months, because
change your fighting, like, not completely reinvent yourself, but just add a different element to your fighting style so he can take it to the ground. Or
he has a wrestling background. He just never uses it. Whether he needs to go away and have another fight in the division, maybe get his confidence back. Maybe that's the thing he's lacking after losing these fights.
But who?
Look at that division.
He's beat Max before multiple times. He beat Rodriguez. He beat Ortega, although went very close to losing to Ortega.
But the thing is, any of those dudes are killers anyway. Like, it's hard to get.
Well, that's true. Yeah,
there's no tune-up fight in that list.
No,
exactly. For you to get your confidence back. Like, you're going up against killers. So, and he's beaten all those guys anyway. I think it's tough.
And again, this could be Aussie bias, but I feel like the UFC, they if he wants that fight and is happy to go whenever Ilya's ready to go, whether that's
go to Spain and do it
at 303 or something middle of the year, and go to Spain. Bring the UFC to Spain. First Spanish champion. That's correct, isn't it? First Spanish champion.
Correct. I think he's one of 5 Spanish fighters in the UFC.
To have ever fought in the UFC. Could you imagine having an event in Barcelona or Madrid and having a packed full?
And they're also looking at a stadium, which would be the first stadium since they did it here in Melbourne for Ronda. So yes, one of the soccer stadiums.
All they're big. They're all out closing.
I think a few of them have retractable roofs.
Okay, yeah, right.
So one of those ones where they can close it and they can whack it. Fuckload of people in there.
Yeah,
I think it'd be crazy.
Just do it in the Bernabeu. Fuck it. 90,000 in there. If it rains, it rains.
Yeah.
Just cover
Add
the
an
ring.
Interesting element to it.
Because I think what was it? It was
used to do boxing.
Was it a Thriller Manila? Was it? It rained.
Rumble in the Jungle.
Yeah, it was one of those where it rained but the ring was covered, but everyone was sitting watching. It got wet, but they didn't give a fuck.
Yeah,
they were there to see Ali. So none of these guys are on Ali's kind of level of superstar at the time. But
we're getting pretty hypothetical at the moment. But it'd be interesting to see if they do run one in Spain in an indoor stadium.
I agree.
Ortega might be interesting.
Yeah, I see a lot of red.
He's
go down there. Like he's lost to Rodriguez, lost to Volk, beat Korean Zombie, lost to Max.
He also hasn't been active though.
Hasn't fought.
He's got a fight booked. He's coming up.
Does? Oh,
right. He's fighting Rodriguez. So there's probably a number 1 contender kind of fight there anyway. So because that's a rematch. Yeah, because he popped his shoulder out. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and they can that.
And that is this weekend.
And Max has got Justin Gagey at UFC at lightweight.
So it's cancelled. Is that going ahead?
It's there. It's definitely happening.
That's for the BMF.
It's BMF,
isn't it?
Oh, that's I don't know what that cancelled's about.
Yeah,
that's
definitely on the
BMF
list.
Is definitely happening.
Because there's some chat about who's the other fucking. Oh, no, feather. Yeah, they've got what? Sterling's coming up to fight at featherweight. Do they take Max off and give him like Cutter so you can give like Oliveira Gagey? So you reorganize some of the opponents on UFC 3 so it actually leads towards the title picture. Whereas at the moment there's a lot of them are just fun fights. So there's some conversation about whether they do that.
It's a fun stacked division, and Australian bias aside, I feel like if Volk presses his case to Dana, he should be able to get the rematch.
Yep. So into the co-main, Whittaker gets a win over Paulo Costa. First fight for Costa in a very long time. It's good to see him back in the UFC, healthy. Absolute rig as usual. He fought a pretty good fight, but Whittaker, I think strategically, and I think personally, I think he probably won all 3 rounds.
I could see how you'd have it 2-1, but it certainly wasn't
based on the heel kick that almost ended the fight, and I think that did largely a lot of the damage to Whittaker's face. But go back to the volume and the actual controlling in the fight. Whittaker, to me, was a class above. It's one of the best fights I think we've seen Bobby Knuckles fight in a hot minute.
It was an entertaining fight, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Heart in your mouth stuff when the wheel kick landed.
Exactly.
Luckily, the bell was only a few seconds away.
Yeah, that's a very standard Bobby thing to get hit with something big and have to recover and survive. And
tough
lucky in this one, he survived this one. Yeah. Another one of those guys that, you question his chin with some of the wars he's been in, especially as
100%.
champion. But it was definitely a big change from the snooze fest that was the Ian Gary and Neil fight before it. I think Whittaker did enough to win that fight. And Costa thought he was landing big shots in that, but I just don't think he did enough to convince the judges to win this one.
It's interesting. He kind of seemed a little disappointed that when the judge's decision came through, but I think maybe when he goes back and rewatches the fight, he'll probably see what everyone else saw.
Yeah, and what I thought was interesting from Robert was his trademark combination, the right head kick. He only threw once, and he did land it. I would have thought he might go to that well a couple more times. But I guess, you could run the risk of, again, you're striking with
Costa on the counter.
The massive man that is Costa. So, you run that risk.
Costa drops down below Brendan Allen now in the rankings, down to 7.
Yeah.
Some rumors about an Israel versus Hamzat fight, but I think it was all just fake shit.
And Merab Dvalishvili dominates Henry Cejudo. Cejudo confirmed retiring now.
He retired in the cage, and they didn't show it on the television. So on the broadcast, which I think a bit disappointing. I think one of probably the biggest fumbles of the bag in UFC history was Henry Cejudo with double champion. Forcing into retirement, trying to force the UFC's hand to pay the man like they did Conor and. Unfortunately for him, he was in two of the smallest weight divisions, and the UFC said, "Don't give a fuck. See you later." He kind of got lost in the wilderness. He still went 3 rounds here in this one, and went pretty. He was dominated. He was never really winning this fight, but he's still top 5 in this division. He can definitely compete against these guys. But it was a different beast, and he kind of knew this is my last chance, and I'm done. So whereas.
Merab hasn't lost for 6 years now.
I think he's got the longest win streak in the UFC at the moment. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, I think that record stands. He's pretty close to one of the longest win streaks in the UFC. Is the mine contender. Will probably get the winner of O'Malley and who's he fighting? Oh, Cheetah. So he might get the winner of them. But he looks really good. And rumors he did 3 rounds of 5 minutes with Sterling in the back before they went out. So which is crazy. I think the dude needs to be studied. He's a
cardio.
Physical freak.
It's interesting as well because Topuria is Georgian Spanish. He's lived in Georgia and then moved over to Spain, I think, in his teens. So Dvalishvili also a Georgian. Yep.
Yeah. So, and that was a card. Vanderlei Silva was inducted into the Hall of Fame. Pride legend, was dominated in Pride while he was over there. It was good to see him make it through. And then I guess, Jimmy, you've brought up the final night there. Junior Taffa, I think it is. His brother got hurt and he stepped in on 2 days' notice to take his fight. Fortunately, he lost.
It's interesting. Took his brother's spot.
Yep.
Yep. Wow, that's crazy.
In the heavyweight division. Yeah, I assume he was probably training with his brother through the lead up in the camp, and his brother got hurt.
I think it was even less than 2 days.
Wow. That's a cool story.
Wild events on the weigh-in day. So there you go.
Yeah, the day before.
Yeah.
I didn't know that happened.
Yeah.
That's sick.
Yeah.
And Pereira Jamal Hill has been named.
Confirmed.
Yep.
UFC 300 title fight, main card, the main one. Supposedly it was booked for 301, which is in Brazil. Makes sense. But they've brought it forward because they couldn't get anything else done. Supposedly Leon Edwards had 3 fights that he agreed to, but those guys, they haven't announced who they were against, but those guys couldn't get it done. So they've pivoted, pulled Alex on it. Alex has signed an 8-fight deal with the UFC as part of this, so he gets a big pay bump as well and will be the light heavyweight fight.
He signed for 8 fights.
Yeah, eight more fights.
He's 36.
So, yeah, whether he does all 8, I don't know. But he's got it. They obviously want to market him.
Twice a year till he's 40.
Yeah. Well, he's already said if I get through this fight well and quick and I don't take too much damage, as in I'll go there and knock him out in the first round, I'll fight at 301. Which is 3 weeks later. I think it was 21 days or something. Because it's in Brazil. You're I'll fight in Brazil.
Yeah.
Fuck it. If I'm good, I'm going to do it.
Fair.
Crazy.
So, UFC 300, I think, is really tasty. Some people are a bit down on it. But
I think they didn't like the fact that it's not got the premier 2 biggest names.
There's no Conor or...
It's
no GSP and Lesnar like was UFC 200, but... I think it's still pretty...
I think it's stacked. Yeah. And I think it's fun in that it's so deep. It's one of those ones that if you actually wanted to start watching the undercard, and watch Bobby Green and Jim Miller, or watch Holly Holm and Kayla Harrison, or watch Figgy and Garbrandt, it's one of those ones where you actually... top to bottom. It's just maybe the huge draw for the main fight isn't there. But it's still... You got a BMF and 2 title fights. I think it's sick.
Yeah, and I think maybe it doesn't appeal to the casuals. Hardcores love it, but I think it's definitely in that middle ground for those people of like, oh yeah, this is something I want to turn into.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's going to draw plenty of eyeballs. I don't think it's as bad as what people think it is.
And
I think it's
and
just
it's heaps of good quality fights top to bottom.
If it was any other fight, like if it wasn't a fight card that was a milestone like 300, this is a stacked card. Like,
yeah,
it's absolutely
100%.
amazing.
Yeah.
I think just the fact
It's
that
better than the 298 card. And it's
way better.
I think it's way
better than
299. So yeah.
Again, I think just going back, you haven't got like the face of the UFC fighting in.
I think Alex Pereira is pretty fucking close to it. At the moment.
Is. Yeah. I think they just
considering he's won 2 different weight divisions in the last 18 months and been knocking fools out right and centre. Like,
and Brazilian in an era where we haven't seen Brazilian domination like we used to. Yeah. And just looking at former champs on the undercard, Oliveira, Prohaska, Sterling,
Holloway,
Figgy.
Yep.
Like it's stacked in terms of guys that have been champ or guys like
Andrade was as well.
Yeah, so. Exactly. Pretty much every fight there's a former champ on there.
That is true.
And you know,
Hall of Fame was a champion.
Future Hall of Famers like Jim Miller.
Yeah.
So I think you're right, and it's interesting as well, like the casual hardcore kind of dynamic. The UFC is becoming more and more mainstream.
Oh,
you know, the UFC,
especially with the TKO takeover. Because
it's on ESPN.
Michael Chandler was cutting a fucking promo on Raw on Monday on McGregor. It was just like, get in the gym, let's get this thing done. Because that's there's other subsidy, the other entity that TKO owns is the WWE. So there is the crossover events. So they're getting it done. Like the market is definitely growing for them. They can only get bigger.
And it's changed, UFC 1 is not the same as UFC 300, UFC 100, and then UFC 200 is when it's starting to, this isn't just like this fringe thing, like this is starting to get big. And now the fact that we're at 300 and it's pretty close to mainstream as sports get now.
Yeah, definitely.
It'll be interesting to see what it's like at 400.
400, which I think we worked out was another 7 years.
7 or so years. Yeah.
What does UFC 298 look like? 299.
Yeah, so we do have one, but
that's in April because I know Dust. If you just click, if you go previous ones, just click on the previous ones.
I'll have to go for a while if
there's a lot of fight nights in between. Yeah.
Come on.
Nah, it would have been quicker if I googled it, bro.
There it is. O'Malley, when's that? March 9th. That's 3 weeks away.
Yeah, it's not far at all.
It's not far.
So O'Malley versus Chito Vera. Dustin Poirier versus Benoit Saint-Denis, who's looking really good. Kevin Holland, Michael Page, Gilbert Burns on there against Della Maddalena. So that's a huge one for Aussie fight fans. And Jan and Sonia Dong. That's pretty handy card there too.
Yeah, looking forward to that as well. So,
in terms of Della Maddalena as well, on the ascendancy, huge fight going up against Gilbert Burns, who hasn't been champ but has had a title fight.
Yes.
For him, if he gets a win there and starts to go top 5 in the welterweight division, we may be looking at another Aussie who'll be pushing for a title.
He did train with Volkl all his camp as well, so
he's getting age there. He's 27, so he's coming
plenty of time.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that. His actual name is Giacomo, which is Italian for Jack. So he's got a bit of these ones about him. Yeah. I was doing the sign for those listening.
Yeah, that's it.
Yes, I can do it.
Yeah, cool. Got a pretty good record as well.
Fucking oath he does.
Yeah.
Actually, he has one of the longest. When did he start in UFC? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wins in UFC.
He lost his first 2 professional fights. How crazy is that? And then since then, he's won 16, of which, there was 6 in the UFC.
Yeah.
Very good.
Sick. So fights are looking pretty crazy upcoming. Hopefully Volk gets the rematch against Topuria. We'll see what he does with his career. I don't get the feeling he's hanging up the gloves. I feel like he'll want to go again. But where and who that's against, that'll be up to the discretion of Dana and the UFC head honchos. But Australian bias aside, I think he's done everything in his power to deserve getting a rematch.
Yep.
F1's not far off, boys. You two are the F1 aficionados.
A couple of weeks away as well. Yeah. They're doing testing at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, using that sandbagging analogy, every team's kind of taking it easy. not really turning up the notch. But after day one, Verstappen was 1.5 seconds, 1.1 seconds ahead of everyone else. And they looked pretty happy with that, considering, they haven't even turned the car up yet. So hopefully not another dominant Red Bull season incoming, but looking
Had the makings of it.
Yeah, looking potential with
their
ability. So yeah.
Yep. They made massive changes to the car between seasons as well. So it'll be interesting to see how that.
They haven't tweaked last year's car. They've actually redeveloped it completely.
Yeah.
Again, trying to stay ahead of the competition.
That's it.
Who in their words, would have copied last year's car and trying to see what they've done and do it for themselves. So yeah. So it looks like today's sessions were largely cancelled due to ripple strips coming off.
Yeah, right.
No. I was trying to see if there was a fast runner from today. Looks like McLaren and Ferrari were fast, but yeah, actually, I don't think Max was running today. It was Perez's day today. Who, interesting, not concerns yet, but Ricardo was 4th fastest yesterday.
Ooh.
In the Visa Cash app car. So
the shittest name for a team.
So he was looking pretty quick himself. So that's good. And blew Yuki out of the water, his teammate, who I think was 13th fast. So that's good. Good showing from Danny early on. Whether that transitions through the rest of the season, who knows? But it's good to see the start of the year.
Time will tell.
Thank you. Bit of a longer one. Thank you to anyone that's listened through the whole thing. We'll be back next weekend to look at the second half of the Rugby League preview and NBA games. We'll be back. We'll also start looking at the AFL. Probably have a good look at that the following pod. We should have some Test cricket, and it's really that transition period now. From sort of cricket
summer into the winter stuff.
Into our footy season down under, and one of our favourite sports drops off for a bit in the NFL. But we'll certainly track the basketball as it comes into the pointy end of the year, keeping an eye on the EPL, fights, F1, you name it. We like to talk about it. All right, thank you. We'll see you in about 8-9 days, something like that.
Goodbye.
Catch up.
Thanks. Bye.
Pressure button.